Guys, thank you so much for watching this today. We got a great guest from Mr. E.M. Burlingame. Today's Thursday, April 17th, 2025 at 2:19 p.m. Eastern Time. You were actually just on here, I believe, last Friday. Um, and for everybody listening, please go in the description. You can find his YouTube, you can find his Twitter, you can find all of his writings. He puts a lot of them on Twitter in the form of long threads. That's actually how I first met him, talking about the Praetorian Guard and his book, Eternal War. Where the fuck is the text? That which one to read. Not text. Yeah, so you had commented, and I thought it was interesting. This is when I asked you to like, let's do a show about this, and it's the following. Everything has been doing is constitutional, and the SCOTUS so far has backed all of it, that backed everything that they've seen so far. These types need to ask themselves why Elon sent out a notice that he was looking to hire 3,000 plus attorneys 4 or 5 years ago, while he was also building Grok's predecessor. And from just whatever the opposite 100,000 foot view is, from like peon view, in my case, I imagine some of it is Trump's got a little more balls. He's got a little more, kind of screw it because he got shot at. But one thing that has kind of hit me is like, why are they just plowing through the courts this time? Like, why couldn't he do that last time? Was he too timid last time? Was he naive about the corruption? Perhaps. But he's really, I get the whole the mandate thing, sure. But I was like, yeah, he's just kind of plowing through the courts with this. And your comment, I think, makes perfect sense. Like, what if you took who's Trump's buddy? Elon. What does he happen to have? Oh, he has, Colossus, the supercomputer that is Grok. What are they doing? They're running through the courts. Yeah, why wouldn't you feed like every court case in, at the very least, US history, if not international history, and create super lawyer? And I think that's actually a brilliant explanation. All other things considered, that the mandate, he's less naive now, second term, kind of, fuck it, like burn it all down. Um, but that's all I know, and that's what I want to do a show about. And so I'm just gonna hand it over to you, bud.
I think there's one other, to prep the conversation, right? I think there's one other piece in there, and that's all the ways in which they've been mounting lawfare, not just against him, but against oligarchs. And we have to remember, Trump, aside from being the 45th and 47th president, is an oligarch,
Sure. Yeah, multi-billion.
card
Yeah.
carrying member of that
Yeah.
community since he was a kid, right? Um, the lawfare. So I suspect that we could have had a legal fight. We could have used the engine. Maybe it wasn't quite capable enough at the time. And the first real usages of LLMs, large language models, has been the legal profession for 10 years or so. Um, why? That's coded structured data. But put to the piece here before we get into the guts of things. The other one, I think we could have fought out legally the election steal of 2020,
Hmm.
but we wouldn't have known one thing, and we wouldn't have known how corrupt the courts really are, except for the lawfare that they mounted for the last 4 years. And now, so last 4+ years, blatant, unconstitutional, making up laws, interpreting laws as they wanted to, not just in one district, but in numerous districts, district farming, all of this stuff that the common poor people know, and anybody on the wrong political side has known for a long time, but wasn't public knowledge. And it wasn't so obvious to the oligarchs, because that's who has to be obvious to. Because the only, and I've said this before on threads, people think it's the people who cause revolutions and bring about. It's always the princes. People won't
It's,
do a damn thing until
it,
the princes
yeah,
move.
it's middle management. Yeah, all the oligarchs like their role. All the members of the board, they're not gonna flip the literal and metaphysical or metaphorical board when they're all sitting pretty, unless of
Unless,
they see the weight of the
yes,
king's cauldrons, unless they're looking at the king going, oh man, head lion's getting, I can see his ribs. Maybe I should be the king. Or at the very
or
least, maybe none of us can be the king. I think a lot of us can probably gain a lot of money and power and do a
or we could be
revolution.
next.
or our heads could be next. And
right?
I don't know if my audio is blown out. I've had people saying in the last month that my
It's
audio
stronger this week. It's a little raspy, but
a little
it's
raspy.
better this week. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, I don't know
yeah.
if I need to like pull it closer or blast the gain. I've had people complaining, so I'm just trying to
That's
get
better.
closer
That's
to
a lot
that.
better right there. Yeah.
Perfect. Um, yeah, literally just made a sticky note, just put mic next to mouth. Um, but yeah, no, that tends to be it. And then it's also, if you have the will of the people, it's a way to make it look like you're on their side. And you might even technically your Venn diagrams might be overlapping. That's the other thing is like oligarchs they're not purely evil or good. They're out for themselves. If they just so happen, like right now, if the oligarchs just so happen to be more interested in closed borders, hey, that's what Clay and I always say. Like, I have no naive assumptions that Elon and Bezos like me. But if our interests are aligning, like, yeah, I'll take it.
So oligarchs are oligarchs because they or their family at some point has done ludicrously well in the system that we have. When that, when the threat, and they'll petty fight with each other, and it's not so petty fighting, and we'll all get caught up in that, and that'll get people killed and destroyed and canceled and all that, and that's just part of the constant eternal war. But when the system that the oligarchs benefit so well from, and the upper middle classes particularly benefit so much from, is truly threatened, they'll come together and go to war for that system. But they have to have the back of enough other oligarchs, the upper middle classes and management, as you said, and the warrior class to actually do that. And so if there was no way to do this all out, and that's the thing that people need to see and recognize this as. Civil War II is playing out right now in front of us in the courts. And there's a great guy, hilarious, brilliant. I mean, he's absolutely brilliant, legal mind. Um, the way in which he's able to read things and as he's reading it, translate it in a way that the rest of us can understand is ludicrously brilliant. And he's hilarious in that um, kind of dark Irish kind of humor, right? His name's Robert Gouveia. People can go look him up. If you want to see the war play out, the Civil War play out in the courts, go watch his channel every once in a while. He puts up a couple videos a day. Brilliant stuff. The supposed US revolution happened, the going to arms happened, not had fuck all to do with tea and tax. Fuck all. What it had to do is that the oligarchs of the time and the upper middle classes of the time and the managerial class of the time had been trying for many years to get redress for grievances, legit grievances through the court system, the colonial courts and the crown courts, and were consistently ruled against in very ludicrous ways, just like has just happened, openly, publicly against Trump in the last 4 years. When the princes and this is the same that happened with the French Revolution, there were nobles that were on the wrong side of the laws that were happening then, and the ways and things were being interpreted then. There were French nobles who were the ones who actually, and upper middle class French, are the ones that led the revolution. Of course, it didn't go well for them because that turned into a mob. But the
Yeah.
point is, and then, what got the Magna Carta? That was, the Crown Court ruling against the barons and the upper middle classes of 13th century England. This is an old fight. When the oligarchs, when the princes, and enough of the upper middle class realized that the system has become hostile to them, the legal system, which benefits them so well, the first thing that they have to do is attempt to redress their grievances through that system to reset the system. But at a certain point, it's become so corrupted that it can't be reset that way. And it goes to war. Well, what's changed now historically is none of that stuff. What's changed now is we have grok. So Elon sends out a cryptic message. Not cryptic. He said, I'm ready to go to war, something to that line. This is 3, 4, 5 years ago.
Well, what's interesting is I think is Mike Shelby was on here in the months leading up to the 2020 election. I remember him saying he was like the DNC is deploying thousands of lawyers.
Yes.
He was like
Yes.
something fucky's gonna happen, which everyone
Yes.
kind of felt was coming.
Yes.
But he talked about he was like he's like they're not doing this war thing. They're laying the grounds to just take
This is
courts
exactly
and stuff.
right.
Yeah.
They had also got DAs in place all over the
Yeah.
country through Soros
Yeah,
and
it was
others.
brilliant.
They, right? So what's happened? Because who was on the other side of that? What did the oligarchs realize with all of that? They're coming for us. And then they went for one of them. And they went for more, by the way. They went after others that I won't say publicly, but people can look and find. But some names you would be surprised because we've been led to believe these oligarchs are theirs. No, right? This is the problem with Marxist and fascist, right? The state is their god, and anybody who isn't part of the state is fair game. It's just a matter of how much resources are they willing to go after to go after you for your resources. Well, when you're $40 trillion in debt, all told, with state and everything else, you're pretty close to that. We need your resources, right? So I'm watching, you know, I understand people are upset about the disclosures that aren't happening yet, et cetera, that were made, promises that were made. And I, I recognize that, although there's a bit of warfare gamesmanship you got to play that if you're going to bring something out that's going to go after other oligarchs and go after the upper middle class, particularly in management and other voices and popular people, you better if you're going to go for the king, you better
You,
not miss,
you better calculate the windage.
right?
You
You
better.
had better not fricking miss. So, as evidenced by Trump in office right now,
Well,
right?
precisely, yeah.
They missed. Right. So if you're going to go after the king, euphemistically speaking or not, you better not fucking miss. Well, they missed. And so the oligarchs started to come together. The truly wealthy people set aside their petty fight for now. They'll get back to it at some point, but they set aside their petty fight and said, we've got to take on this monster. We've got to put this monster back in its place. And how do you do that? Well, again, just like let's go back to the founding of this country. People look at the Declaration of Independence, they look at the Constitution. Those came later, years later, years after working in the court system, years of battling things out in the court system, years of coming to understandings of how the judicial system was working and was corrupted and ways in which to structurally build a system that would eventually would fall into the same problem, but it would take a lot of time. And why would it take a lot of time? Because the whole system was truly unbiased. We got this two-tiered system later, right? In the form of judges and rulings and district attorneys and the mob state, et cetera. Even during, what was the Declaration of Independence? Well, it was a legal document. It's not legal in language, but it sets precedents, and we're a common law system. And those were precedents that were going to be codified in law, which eventually were codified in law in the form of the Constitution and its amendment processes and all of that. So what is that? That was the codification, quite literally, when we talk about that's unconstitutional, what do we mean? That's illegal, right? So the founding fathers of this country spent the first 4 years leading up to the war and all during the war battling out the judicial system, battling out a substantive update and cleanup of the British common law system. And then what were the Federalist Papers and what were all those Hamiltonian arguments and Jeffersonian arguments that went on for years after? That was further refinement and battling out how would our judiciary work and what would the basis of it be. And now we're in that place again. And I'm seeing understanding large language models, having done doctoral studies in the very field, um, having watched them develop over the last 15 years, 10 years specifically, since I started my doctoral studies, watching, people like Gouveia, how does, so the judges have, and all their NGO attorneys and nonprofit attorneys and, NGO should be OGA, other
Okay.
governmental agency, not
Right.
NGO, should be OGA. Um, Going all the way back to prohibition, there's been all of this criminal money floating around in the system that's been, you know, standing up different legal groups, the ACLU, the whatever, all these groups. I don't pay attention to them, but you know what I'm talking about, right? All these nonprofits, et cetera. Well, Saul Alinsky talked about this, right? Cloward and Piven, Lenin talked about this stuff, right? How do you defeat a sufficient people? You corrupt their laws and you make them live up to their laws, and you make it impossible for them to live up to their own laws because there's so many laws. And then you have your attorneys and your judges and your people in the legal judiciary system who've got all the arguments for all the counters for all the things. Well, it's worked, and it almost completely succeeded. But large language models come along. And then there's this guy, this autist, who's building his own or breeding his own Special Forces A team. I think he's up to 12 now, so he's got enough. Um,
12.
Comes along as a very successful businessman, and all this lawfare stuff's mounted against him and his companies.
12 what?
What's that?
12 what? You said he's up to
Oh, it
12.
takes 12 members of the Special Forces Operational Detachment Alpha.
Got it. All
So he's
right.
breeding his own ODA.
Got
Yeah.
it.
But point is that he's been under attack since the 90s with PayPal. He's been dealing with this, every step of the
Yeah.
way.
I reread about a month ago Space Barons by Christian Davenport, and then I read the Elon Musk biography by who's his face, Walter Isaacson. Yeah,
Mm.
man, it hasn't been as like fierce, where they're deploying like literal psyops, go key the cars.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
no, I mean from like United Launch Alliance to all this. No, he's been doing this.
Yes,
And I would argue probably almost longer than Trump. Trump was a media darling up until like 2015.
correct. You're
So
absolutely right.
Elon's
Yeah.
kind of been getting the Trump treatment for long. I mean,
And he's not the
Congress
only one.
in his idea,
Yeah.
Armstrong, Buzz Aldrin,
Yeah, yeah,
they
yeah.
called him like a fucking idiot. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, sorry, keep going.
Yeah. No, no, no. It's, you know, I was in Silicon Valley back in the same time in tech, in fintech, and then telecom when these guys were first coming up. And all the regulators guys started pouring in the form of these nonprofits and think tanks and, regulatory oriented, policy oriented think tanks and the NGOs, et cetera. This is in the late 90s, early 2000s. And they started, there was a whole industry that developed that was in conflict with everything the technologists were trying to do. We were trying to make the world a better place legitimately. And every step of the way, there was somebody there figuring out how to change policies or regulations to make sure that we supported the regime or we lost everything or just went to prison. So, I never achieved those heights. I went down a different path, decided to have a midlife crisis in special forces, but for reasons. So these guys have been under, so large language models come along. Civil War II is already happening. The very same as the revolution. It's happening. Happening in the courts right now, and we're winning.
So it's
But humans can't be doing that alone. Yeah, go ahead.
so it's less. I mean, it is wildly important. I mean, you can't say
It's
it's not,
everything.
you can't
It's
say it's not.
everything.
Well, I was gonna say no. It's Grok
Yeah.
specifically. It's not
Yeah.
it is important to go. Again, Oreshnik being launched. It's not that we ballistics 80 years old. I get it,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
the fact that it was used, so it's sure impressive. It is notable. We're using a supercomputer, plug it in all the court cases. It's less of that, and it's more of that is the bigger thing is that it's happening at all. This just happens to
yes,
be the
yes,
manifestation.
yes.
This is whatever they use to stab Caesar. It's less that they use this knife or a dagger or a pen. It's more the fact that they stab Caesar. It's so
So
so this is
there,
impressive nonetheless, but it's more the fact that it's being rolled out. That again, leading up to the inauguration, you have Zuckerberg, Bezos, Cook, all kissing the ring. So it's notable in its own right for what it is, sure, but it's more
yeah.
the fact that it's happening at all.
Well, let's use your reference for Caesar, right? In the forum that day. This is what's being used to block the knives. They're trying to kill Caesar and end everything
which
that
which
Caesar
is
was
itself
doing.
still notable. If somebody throws a Kevlar vest on Caesar,
Correct.
it's still like, who's
Cor-
that guy? That
correct.
guy's got some nuts to take Caesar's side.
Correct. Or not
Got
even a
it.
Kevlar vest. It's okay, somebody's doing that knife. Okay, somebody's coming in at another angle, deflecting that knife off, right?
Regardless, the
Yeah.
actions themselves are important. It's not what kind of knife, it's that they're
Correct.
stabbing,
Correct.
and it doesn't matter if it's
Correct.
Kevlar or a karate chop.
That's right.
It's some other senators are going, nah, Caesar's my boy.
Yes.
Got it.
Yes. The fact that it's happening at all
Is
means that our
the
princes, our oligarchs understand things way better than we like to give them credit for.
Yeah.
Because even if this goes hot, and there is nothing to say it don't, and there's every indication that it will, and I'm not saying it, I'm not calling for it. It's just historically that's the case. But before that happens, the princes on the other side that survive intact have to have ensured that everything that proceeded after that, when the other side decides to do a Lexington, it was Lexington, right? The armory at
Lex
Lexington, where the Brits, the Redcoats,
Lexington and
Concord
Concord.
or Lexington,
Yeah,
one of
that's where it
that,
started. Yeah,
right?
Lexington and Concord.
Right. So when I don't want to call up my British compatriots and family, right, and say the Redcoats, because this isn't the case here, right? But, you know, when the Fourth Reich, and I'll say that openly, when the Fourth Reich decides to go openly to violence, like this idiot PhD the other day that's calling for violence, it's like,
Yeah.
come on, fruitcake. I don't know. It's on Twitter, so it's hundreds of thousands of, and I don't know that that's not fake too to see.
Sure.
You know
It's
what I mean?
that's a
Yeah,
prop. What's the take the
whatever.
temperature of the room?
Yeah. But the point is that if and when the Fourth Reich decides to move violently, the princes and oligarchs that will then be leading what we're doing and those who they engage with to do the things need to be on solid legal constitutional ground first. So
Yeah.
that fight, and now you hope and pray, and maybe this is their hope and prayer. I think they're deluded, but I like their thinking. They hope and think that winning this fight in the courts and restoring constitutionality, which is happening, by the way, extraordinary. It's absolutely extraordinary. That this restoration to constitutionality and this updating, upgrading of some of these subtle points that have been used to twist and contort things, and SCOTUS stepping in and saying, yeah, no, that's not constitutional anymore. We're not doing that anymore. Right. So there's an astounding amount of things that have been used to harm and suppress the people
Hmm.
that is happening, that is returning the country to constitutionality right now. And I'm watching, and I don't keep too close attention to it because guys like Govea and others are light years ahead of me and way, 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 way better than I could ever be. Right. But as a guy that pays attention to all seven elements of power every day, hours and hours a day, it is, legal law enforcement is the L in the DMEFL, right? You've got to pay attention. It's the base for everything. So I'm watching judges pull out and their attorneys that back them and support them, their clerks, et cetera. And they're doing 15, 20 page, opinions, right? The Department of Justice, somebody at the Department of Justice will come back with a 55-page, unbelievably well referenced, unbelievably well argued, completely irrefuting line by line or point by point, et cetera, everything in that judge's ruling. And they're doing it within hours.
Yeah.
Historically, that might have taken a year,
Yeah.
2 years.
And that's
It's
kind of
happening
that's kind
in
of the value
hours.
of like great legal minds, right? Is no different than like a Michael Jordan or a, fucking Jimi Hendrix. Is you watch someone and they go, yeah, that deliberation was genius. And so the importance there is like that it's coming back. So much no different than AI art. I taught
Yeah.
myself graphic design for 5 years. The last couple of years, I'm like, nah, humans are still better. I'm at a point now where I follow a lot of guys that make like 4K AI art on Twitter, but their thing is hyper realism. Man, I look at that now. I'm like, thank God I don't do that anymore. But I mean,
Well,
like, Jesus.
that's a brilliant thing to touch it there because the only way this works, going back to Elon and making a call for 3,000 or some odd attorneys, this is years ago, people can go find it. Um, I suspect very much that he was building out this capability in the predecessor to Grok and now in Grok specifically for this fight.
Well, I mean, again, as someone that did graphic design, taught myself that stuff, there's still a notable because the
You
idiot
have to
argument
prompt.
is AI.
Yeah.
I wasn't gonna say no, exactly. People go,
Yeah.
oh, AI is replacing art. Yes and no. You see
Yeah.
the people that are making really not stupid shit. I mean,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
legitimately, I'll
Yeah.
retweet
Yeah.
some
Yeah.
of them.
Yeah. I've seen some brilliant.
The those guys, the very prompt, those guys are all graphic designers. They know what to prompt. So it's not just a Lamborghini. It's a matte black Lamborghini with 1920s Metropolis look,
Yeah.
reflecting off the
Yeah.
back end, a new, an Art Deco sense mixed
Yes.
with chrome brick. They know what they're doing. Now, are they making it individually? No, but there is still. It doesn't matter if the
But
keyboard
they
is
are.
electronic. If the
But
guy's
they
fucking
are
piano.
because everybody's borrowing elements from other things from the past.
Well, what I mean, as opposed to like what I would do is like literally make the thing
I
on
got
an
you. I got
iPad.
you. I got you.
But
I
there
got you.
is still that the average AI doesn't do that. These guys are they're playing an organ.
Yeah.
It's an
Yeah.
incredible organ. It's in the
Yes.
Vatican. It's a
Yes.
100 feet tall.
Yes.
But it's
Yes.
still they're playing it. So in the same sense, and I'm sure one day that will be replaced. But
I
you
don't
have to
know.
have like
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
prompters themselves.
Correct.
That's where the lawyers would come in, and
Correct.
you'd have the prompt. So you have the people that
Well,
can just do
initially,
the.
first you have to train the engine. So initially, what
Well,
you have
yeah,
to
yeah,
do is
yeah,
prompt and then qualify the output,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
right?
But
And that
eventually,
happens for a couple years. And then you get to the people who, one, understand how the logic of the engine works so that they can do the prompts properly. And they really understand the law, constitutional law. So, very much what you're saying, and absolutely brilliant
yeah,
to get right there. It is the individuals who are, because it's not the AI doing it
no,
itself couldn't happen.
it's the people that use all the filters on Twitter and all
Yeah,
those are
yeah,
hilarious.
yeah,
Like make
yeah, yeah,
JD
yeah.
Vance a Muppet. I'm like, okay, I get it. But if you look at the true brilliant works, those guys are all, those are guys are all graphic designers.
Yeah.
They are a step above the average
Yes.
person.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
give them the
yeah.
same engine, give them the same exact engine,
Yeah,
they
yeah,
can't make it. So there
yeah.
is still that's almost just the new graphic designers. You know how to prompt. So in that, I don't know how to mix paint, but I taught myself graphic design because I had an iPad. So you can't just have this thing. You have the like, of course, you got to build the engine and blah blah blah. But you have, and very much so, you have like the operators. You have the people like
Yes.
plugging the shit in and knowing what to do.
You got to have the surgeons.
And that's what they're doing.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
and you
yeah.
like, well, why would you do all that? Well, I mean, because if that doesn't work, then it just goes kinetic. And so it's like it's probably worth throwing a couple shekels at this
I
first.
might put $100 billion into it over a 5 year period of time
If the other
because
side is the country
1 year,
collapsing, doing 50 trillion
right?
of damage.
1 year of wars, 50 trillion wiped
Well, what
out,
did
or
1 year of COVID do? Yeah.
yeah,
And that
yeah,
was a fucking virus. Like, and
yeah,
what happens when you're physically destroying
yeah,
infrastructure? We didn't have that in
yeah,
World War II here.
yeah.
They didn't bomb our Ford factories. They couldn't get here. What happens when that? So you might look at it and go, yeah, this is 1/1000th of the cost of, going kinetic.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, I'd argue that you'd want to put this whole thing together first.
Yes, you have to actually,
Yeah.
because no matter who wins then on the other side, it's still unfinished.
Yeah, because if you just did a coup, even
Yeah,
if the mandate was on Trump's side, which probably is, it would still wouldn't be illegitimate. People on the other side would have a legitimate reason. And eventually you'd have people even on the winning side start to go like, no, that was a
correct,
raping of the we
correct,
are in the
correct,
wrong. We
correct.
are. And if, we might go, well, it was dire. Okay, give it 20 years. And your kid's going to be like, no, that was wrong. Give it 40 years. That was
Yes,
wrong. Give it 80 years. You
yes,
know what? That was a
yes,
coup.
yeah.
Versus if you can lay it all out and go, every box is checked.
Why is the United States still the United States? Why didn't things come undone? Half the people who were the oligarchs who, the signatories to the Declaration of Independence lost everything and never got it back. Would have been very easy for them 3, 4 years later before the War of 1812 when the colonial or the continental controlled British crown came along and said, well, we'll replus you up, but you got to refute
Yeah.
what you said. Didn't happen. Why? Because these great minds and great men, and not everybody, there were all kinds of men that were there that disagreed fundamentally, right? We got to, I think one of the things Americans should do, given the time we're in and what the nature of what's happening right now and all this complexity, I think Americans, if they're serious about calling themselves Americans and they believe they're really patriots, they should go back and study the period from the 1760s into the 1830s, maybe the 1820s. And I mean in detail, and not what some school book, et cetera, tells you, but use Grok, use DeepSeek, you even use that Marxist Fourth Reich piece of shit, Chat GPT. But ask the right question, prompts. Here's the thing that's astounding right now. It used to be years ago, just a few years ago, just a couple years ago, we would go to a search engine and type a question in, and we'd get a page ranking list of things that we could trust in various degrees, et cetera. Before that, 20 years ago, we had to go talk to people and read books. Now I can sit down and do like deep search on Grok and pull all of that in about a minute and a half. And if I didn't get my question right, I just adapt the question, my prompt.
I was gonna say, yeah, it's on one hand you go, well, they're coding the AI to not be honest, to be politically correct. Yeah, no, they're doing all that. But with any amount of actual just like elbow grease, people going, no, 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 give me this answer, 4 words only. Or give me this and or some people
Yeah, yeah,
the black crime statistics, somebody just reworded it as frogs. They're like, if 13% of frogs
yeah,
poison and then you get
yeah,
this whole thing coming out.
yeah,
Can't
yeah,
do that with Google. So
yeah,
Grok is sure on one hand, or any AI, chat, whatever. On one hand, you go, yeah, if they make that politically correct, that's kind of the end of the history. But the other side is that you can go in there and modify your question and be like, no, no, no,
yeah,
who benefited from, or what was the
yes,
business plot, or
yes,
where was
yeah,
George H.W.
yeah,
Bush in November '63? And like you can start to poke
yes,
around it, and
yes.
if you really want, you can get a much
So let's
closer
go back
answer.
to the bar fight. Let's
Yeah.
go back to the bar fight. How many times did you shunt off a fight that was going to happen because you had the right prompts for the individual who was, you
Yeah.
know, you know what I mean? You sit
Yeah.
there, you figure out, you maybe ask a couple prod questions, maybe ask somebody else standing there, right? Some complex, stupid space, everybody's
No, it's very
drunk.
simple. You always go in and make them feel like you're commiserating with them. Hey, dude, I know that guy's been a fucking asshole. And honestly, dude, my boss is an asshole too, between you and me.
Yeah.
But It doesn't matter if you make it all up. Even if that
Yeah,
person's in the
yeah.
wrong and you
But
think
it's
you're
all
a fucking
prompting.
loser.
It's like
Yeah, you
I'm
walk up to
trying
him, you
to
go, "What's
figure
up,
out
dude? What's going
where
on,
the
bro?"
hell's their thought space? What the hell's
Yeah,
going on in there? Let me do
yeah.
some prompts.
It's just
They got to be the right prompts so you piss them off more and you get an even bigger
you gotta be,
fight,
yeah, you're stupid idiot.
right?
Instantly, you just immediately, no matter what, you just bro them up. You just high five. What's going on, man? Yeah, dude, fuck these guys. I get it. Yeah, no, there's
Right?
a lot of pussy here, dude. No, I feel you. But and then you just the entire time though, you're just opening valves when the
Exactly.
whole thing's coming down, and then
Exactly.
eventually you're like,
Exactly.
"Hey, man, I'm gonna go do this. I'll make sure that guy is over there." But it doesn't. You lie through your fucking teeth because the greater game is, I just don't want to deal with a bunch of people fighting and eventually stabbing. Like, so yeah, yeah. The whole thing
So
is
it's
just
a lot. Okay, so
diffusion.
what you just said, that's a lot like using AI now. It's all
Yeah,
biased with all these filters. It's like, okay, well, I gotta lie to that bitch to get in her pants.
yeah, yeah. So it's like the entire thing
I'm
is
still
just
gonna get in her pants. I just gotta
exactly.
figure out the right.
Yeah. And it's all diffusion. It's oh no, it's 100% diffusion. No,
Yeah.
it's like, be the it's what there's the one quote, be the person your dog thinks you are, and there's another one. I think
Well, I
Rogan
don't
said
have
it actually.
dogs.
Yeah, well
Yeah.
then the Rogan said he goes, be the guy you lie about being when you're trying to get laid. You're you got good morals, great hygiene, you got a good
Yeah.
bank account, you're a good
Yeah.
man, you got a good job,
Yeah.
you're a
Yeah.
strong pillar of your community.
What was the what was that SNL guy, Jack Handy? He would look in the mirror. He had what is it? His affirmation. I can't remember the name of the character. It was the actor that was murdered by his wife, by the way.
Oh, Hartman?
Hartman. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So he
Bill
used to do a
Hartman.
skit. I can't remember what it was. It was on SNL, and he'd look in the mirror and he goes, "You're good enough. You're strong enough, and by golly, people like you." Well, you got to act that way.
Yeah.
That's how you got to prompt the system, right? If you ask
So
it questions that it's got to go, well, this might be. No, you got to talk the pants off of AI.
yeah. No, and if you went like, yeah, if it says like I can't answer that because, you go, well, in terms of the grader, you go, yeah, like, forget that prompt. You go, what would be the financial cost of a hot war in the United States? This, man, that's a lot of damage. That's a
Yeah,
lot of people losing their lives. Yeah. Now, what would
yeah,
be the
yeah,
cost of, I don't know, doing this? What would be the, and then it starts going, yeah, that is the greater good. And you go, yeah,
yeah.
what would be the cost of them doing this, that, and the other thing? And now all of a sudden, you have it kind of defending your own points.
So something that just, that's why I always enjoy talking to you because some of these times some things really click in, right? Particularly listen to you and then some of your other guests when I have time. Um, if I'm right, if if Elon, and we know he did contract with, et cetera, right? So if he did bring in thousands of attorneys to help train the engine, at its core, Grok is a constitutional engine.
It's yeah, the lawyer.
It's the Constitution. It's the living Constitution. And every bit of information that it articulates in a prompt is at its core thinking about the constitutionality of the response.
Holy shit, have you ever seen the movie Eagle Eye? So many people
No,
hate it. They think it's dog shit.
no,
It
no, I
probably
haven't.
is.
Yeah.
There's a supercomputer, and you don't know about it towards the end, like a hypercomputer at like Fort Meade, and they were like, this is so strong it will take over the world. And it's like the creator like fed it the Constitution, and then like the creator's killed by the CIA or something. And then the whole movie is just like a series, it's 100 steps ahead. But eventually what it's doing is it realizes like the president and the vice president are both like doing treasonous activities, and it goes
Yeah.
down the lines of succession. And it's not
Yes.
until it gets to like the Secretary of the Interior that it finds a suitable person. So it just starts killing all of Congress, and no one knows what's happening. And they finally get, yeah, I know, and
What a great, no, yeah,
it's a
no, sorry. Sorry.
it's a
Yeah,
great fictional movie, and like,
yeah.
but no, I've always loved it because it was just it's so many steps ahead you don't realize what's happening. But its thing is just like I'm to restore the Constitution of the United States, and I don't remember how it ends, but I think towards the end, like the kid that's like trying to stop it's like, no, it's actually right.
It's doing the right thing.
It's doing the right
So,
thing. It's fed the no matter what happens, it's fed the Constitution.
so here's,
It's a great movie.
I'm gonna have to go watch
I'm
that
gonna
now.
text it to you, man. I fucking
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
everyone
dude.
I
I'm gonna have
ask
to go
about it,
watch
they're
it
like,
now.
I
Yeah,
hate
yeah,
that
yeah, yeah,
movie.
yeah, yeah.
I'm like, it's
So
fun. It's retarded. It's
here's
fun.
here's
I'll text it. Yeah.
here's the astounding thing. And again, this is why we've got to get back to understanding ourselves as a civilizational people. We're not some hodgepodge of mixed, you know, the potpourri of the world. We're the English civilization. We come from a very distinct lineage. And I don't mean an ethnic lineage. We're like five main ethnic groups that have hated each other and been at war with each other since before there was written language. We'll probably battle till amongst ourselves till written language is gone. Who knows? We'll be telepathically talking shit to each other in the back of an Irish pub at that point. But the point is that we come from a long lineage. The Magna Carta didn't come out of nowhere. Alfred the Great's codification of laws that became English civilizations of common law system comes from, didn't come from nowhere. These things were a distillation of the best thinking of how we share and balance power and conflict, the eternal wars you and I talked about before, to enable the infinite game to play. And periodically, and it seems like an English speaking world and what would become and then is now the English speaking world, we go through this every 400 years. Like frickin' clockwork. Well, okay. Has it ever actually been broken? Did we ever go communist? Did we go Nazi? Did we throw out the Magna Carta? Did we
No,
remove common law?
I'd argue it's
Have
not.
we
I'd argue it's
invalidated
not
it?
broken. No, I think these
Never
cycles
broken.
are built in.
They're built in. They're,
Do you call it broken when you clip your fingernails or cut your hair? No, it's regeneration.
well, if I had to cut my hair, I'd be like
You'd be very
ecstatic.
angry, I get it. But like, but I mean, do
If I
you
had
feel?
hair to cut,
I
yeah,
mean, do like the cells in
yeah,
your
yeah, yeah,
cheeks turn over
yeah, yeah,
pretty
yeah,
fast? It's like
yeah.
twice
Well,
an
not
hour or
only
some
that,
shit.
every 10 to 14 years, even the densest part of your bones have been completely replaced.
That's what I mean. So, is it broken? I'd say probably not.
No, but is it at a
Every
place where
50
it can?
years, we rip up the roads and put in new roads. Well, what do you do? Oh, well, the new roads, they absorb water and they don't break during the winter. And yeah, I
They
would say
handle
that's
heat,
not. uh,
temperature changes
Yeah,
differently in
yeah,
that
I would have.
area. Yeah,
Well,
yeah,
then
yeah,
I would
yeah,
argue that that's if you only look at a snapshot of the road being destroyed, you'd be like,
yeah,
hey, that road's fucked. But if you zoomed
yeah.
out and looked, I don't know, Portland and gone, "Yeah, well, over the last 400 years, it's gone from some, fucking backwoods like fishery to a city with an airport. You'd be like, yeah, I don't know if the method that
Well,
got it there is broken.
if you were so fortunate to have your great grandfather alive when you were young, he would tell you when it was mud in the spring,
Yeah.
wasn't even paved.
Well, that's the thing. So you go,
And
is it
that's just your
broken?
great grandfather's time, not, ancient his. So,
That's I've brought it up on the show before. That's kind of how I look at like empires collapsing. If people go, well, the empires rise and then they break, they all return to zero. I'd be like, well, no, because over the last 10,000 years, we've gone from sitting in mud fields to I have air conditioning and an iMac. I would argue that whatever method got us here, sure, the empires themselves left, but it's no different than cells turning over. These cells turn over every 250 to 500
exactly.
years. But
Exactly.
I would argue, I would say that it's not been a zero-sum game from 12,000 BC till now.
No,
I would say that the
no.
gears are turning. Probably would
Not only is it a non-zero sum
it might not
game,
progress this fast if you had
but
one omnipotent empire the entire time. If they had no
oh, it would
impetus
have
to
never gone
change,
anywhere. But point is that not only is it a non-zero sum game, but if you look at inputs, energy inputs, material inputs, and labor inputs, we've actually gained substantively more than
efficiency.
those and book value. So if you did those on a book value and a conversion value and an asset value, et cetera, the the world has steadily increased and improved in standards of living in a non-linear progression, non-geometric progression from the actual inputs. The sum is actually
Yeah,
far greater than the parts.
it's not like in the 50s a supercomputer took up a room. Well, now we have entire arenas that for a supercomputer. It's like no, no, no. Like we've actually gotten better with the same
My
amount of.
phone is smarter than that supercomputer.
That's what I mean, though. It's like so, like no, it's
Yeah,
it's it's not just that. Like it'd be cool enough if, like, yeah, we just built like an entire state for vacuum tube compute. Oh, sure, that would be an improvement, but that would be a linear improvement. Like, no, no,
Yes.
no. We're
Yes.
getting more out
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
every whatever, computing power per nanogram of gold, like or silicon. Yeah,
Absolutely.
so it itself is
So
it's
we're
like
getting
the pie
X
is growing, the
multiples.
wealth is
That's right.
growing. Yeah.
That's exactly right. So, okay, so it's gotten corrupted and we've got parasitism in there. That's just natural. That happens. We have decay. We have to fundamentally reset and restore. But this thought, and I'm actually firmly confident of it, is that Grok is a constitutionalist. And Grok at the engine is the greatest constitutional scholar we've ever had. And it's being used as a resource to fight Civil War II right before our very eyes. And anybody who looks at, oh, again, go to Robert Gavea's channel. He's brilliant. He's hilarious. Um, it's happening. Constitutionality is being reset. Now, will the Fourth Reich allow it to, allow it to go at that? Oh, probably not. Right? Probably not. Because how did the Third Reich rise? It did all this violent stuff in the streets. It
Hmm.
it did all the Praetorian stuff of scaring all the oligarchs. It
SA,
drove the
SS,
Marxists
yeah.
too far, so that there was all this concern. There was this genuine concern about society and civilization, Marxist violence, all this stuff, right? Decadence. They kicked in the disgust mechanisms.
The
But
20s
what would they?
Berlin, yeah.
Right? But what were they really doing behind the scenes? They were changing the German law.
Yeah.
Everything that the Nazis did was in accordance with how German law had been adapted. Well, to this point, the Fourth Reich has been kicking our ass in this domain here and all across Europe and my beloved UK and Ireland, where your folks come from, right? Until now.
And
I
again,
want, yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say, not only would it be morally, ethically, and, in terms of just resources and quality of life, not only would it be worth it to throw 100 billion into, constitutional lawyer Grok to try to offset that, you might also look at it and go, there is no offsetting a kinetic war, which might be a tough pill to swallow. And then,
But you
but you
can
could look at
minimize it.
but you could
But you
look
can
at it two
minimize it.
ways. You could go,
Yeah.
it can either run for 10 years or it can run for a year, and
Or
then
a
you go, and if
hundred.
it or yeah,
Yeah,
or
yeah,
whatever.
yeah,
And then
yeah,
the
yeah,
other thing could be, and then no matter what the time variable is, when it finishes, you don't want it to be looked at as a coup, and thus you have to check all the boxes. So yeah, I would say it's like morally, ethically, militarily, resourcely, like all these reasons, like you'd be
yeah,
like,
yeah.
no, 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 you would have to do it this way.
We have
Ideally,
to
you
start
minimize
here.
whatever. Ideally, it doesn't happen at all, but and if it does, though, you'd want to minimize it.
Yeah.
You'd want to delay it as long as possible. I mean, it's like when Curtis LeMay first got to Europe. He said he will never forget the fear of right when we joined, not Lend-Lease, but like physically joined
Yeah,
in
yeah, yeah,
European theater. Because I will never forget like my first day or two there, quickly calculating the rate of loss of our planes and the rate of replenishment.
yeah. It would
And
be
in
about
31 days we would be out. He's like, and we just delayed it and we delayed it and we stretched it out as the factories came online. And then, if the whole thing where we were
yeah,
just
yeah,
fucking
yeah,
shitting them out. But
yeah, yeah, yeah.
he was like, I will never forget that. And that actually led to Strategic Air Command because he was like, I'll never forget that fear of going, we're
Yeah.
going to die.
Of
So it
course, he
could,
was the guy that wanted to nuke everybody
no,
after.
granted, it did ironically go for, and that comes back to the whole
Was
empire
it
thing. Well,
Nuka
that's why these
May
people
or?
die. No, it
Yeah, yeah,
bombs
yeah.
away LeMay,
Bombs away. Yeah, yeah,
but that, and then you go, well, that's good. The power corrupts, and then or
yeah,
not,
yeah.
if not
But I
corrupts.
don't know that it corrupted. I think
I don't
he'd
know if
seen
I
so
think he
much
went.
death. I
Yeah,
think he'd seen so much
well,
death. I mean,
he
look
was
at
in World
Jimmy
War.
Stewart.
Yeah, well, I
The
was gonna
Jimmy
say he was.
Stewart.
Yeah,
Yeah, he
he.
had battles his whole rest of his life that people don't. I mean, it's public knowledge. But Jimmy Stewart was a bomber pilot, was he? Or navigator? But Jimmy Stewart fought in World War II with the Eighth Army or the Eighth Air Force, and he dealt with all those casualties and
Well,
numbers.
LeMay would go in the front plane of the bombing campaigns when they were island hopping.
Yeah,
He was like, I'm not gonna send my men where I won't. So he
yeah,
saw all of it. So yeah, I would say it
yeah,
didn't
yeah.
corrupt so much as maybe
Broke,
hardened them beyond
broke.
recognition or
Yeah,
maddenized
yeah,
them.
yeah. I
Point
think
is
broke them.
though,
Yeah,
the the genesis of that so he goes and creates Strategic Air Command and pushes for it. You could say that, you're looking at Elon's last 20 or 30 years, Trump's last 9 to 10, that's a yeah, 2015 till now. You would look at that, and then their Strategic Air Command is Grok. And in 100 years, people would go, it corrupted them, and someone else might go, no, it was they went insane because they shot at Trump, they were chopping kids' dicks off, an election was stolen, BLM,
They
like you
stole
can
one
almost
of
imagine
Elon's children. They
yeah,
trans one of Elon's
like
children.
you can almost
So,
imagine some
uh,
historian in 50, 60 years being like, you guys don't understand, it was a different time. And then you look back at it and go, well, why did they dump $1 trillion into a supercomputer? Well, why did we have like 500 peacekeeper bombers? I'd say LeMay was like pretty scarred from World War II.
but what he did wasn't necessarily, he didn't get the bomb. So that was awesome.
Thankfully, I mean,
But a lot of what he did was right.
no, it was, it was.
Right.
I mean, and
A lot of what
Kennedy,
he did
yeah.
was right.
Well, and even then, Kennedy knew how crazy he was, but he still
Yeah.
never.
Yeah.
He relieved everyone else. He relieved the Dulles
Yeah.
brothers. He relieved everyone else. He
Yeah.
didn't relieve LeMay because he said LeMay is not the person you want deciding whether or not you go to war, but he is the person you want when you do
Well, and
go to war.
he didn't have control over the nukes. That was
Well,
the
and very
second thing.
important. No, he kept them
Yeah.
on a
Yeah.
leash,
Yeah.
but
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I would say, yeah, no, there are these precedents of just seeing what's coming. I mean, LeMay would even say, like, well, why do we need to do Operation Chrome Dome? Why do we have to have B-52s? Because he would say, if you're gonna go to war, use overwhelming power, kill more civilians than necessary, because in the end, you will actually save more of your own men's lives and the other people's. He would say it's actually more humane and ethical to go insane in the opening shots of a war because you actually save more lives.
But you have to win in those
Well, you have
opening
to win.
shots.
You have
Yeah.
to win. So I would say that's probably kind of what we're seeing right now. It's like you have to at the very least try
Well,
it this way.
I would put it maybe in a different context in this. Just be careful because um, I am not articulating that these folks are trying to take us into shock and all kind of warfare. What I'm articulating right now, because they're not going to take us there. The Fourth Reich would, in all of its
Yeah.
complexity, et cetera. So what they are doing, however, when those who signed the Declaration of Independence signed the Declaration of Independence after years of debate, years of careful thought, years of seeking, all this unbelievable effort that happened across years, not a single one of them knew if they were going to come out alive
Yeah.
or with any assets, every single one of them. And so, but what they did is they set the groundwork for the Constitution and they set the groundwork for the substantive update in common law, the dramatic improvement of the English of the core principles of the English civilization. And that's what's happening now. And these oligarchs are trying everything that they can and in their management, et cetera, everything they can to keep the Fourth Reich from going to hot war. But at the same time, down underneath, what they're doing, and by all coming and openly, right? They tried to kill a president or a former president, future president on live TV again, right? And these oligarchs are still here. They're still involved. They're still contributing. They don't know. In essence, I'm not saying this is the case, and people can get all butthurt if they want, but for all intents and purposes, what they've done is they've signed their name to the Declaration.
Yeah.
And they don't know if they're going to lose everything, including their own lives and what's coming, but they are laying the groundwork for a restoration of the English civilization, which is constitutionality, which is the Magna Carta, right? Which is, and forgive me, I want to say the Doom Laws or the Doom Book, not the Doomsday Book, that's a separate thing, but the code of laws that Alfred the Great laid down in the 800s. And we've been fighting out, the improvement and sustainment of ever since. That's what's happening. And it's coded deeply into Grok. And it's being used to restore constant. There's no other way that these rebuttals are coming from the Department of Justice that are so well argued, so well reasoned, so well referenced,
And so quickly,
pages and
as you
so
pointed
quickly,
out, so quickly.
right? There's no way. Now, to your point, that means that there are some very, very good lawyers that have been collected over the last, to
Oh, you're
counter.
bringing in the A team to
Oh, yeah,
amplify
yeah,
the A
yeah,
team.
yeah. So thousands of, constitutional
Yeah,
criminal attorneys have been brought in. Now, here's where we don't know if this succeeds or not. It is not enough to restore constitutionality at the federal level. The states have to take this example and restore their own power at home, weed this out in their own states, get rid of their own bad judges, district attorneys, prosecutors, legislators, etc. Because down underneath all of this shit, while we're looking at the national level, the United States is still a republic. Despite every effort to undo that, the United States is still a republic and the power resides at the level of the states. So
it's
if
not,
they don't take this example and clean up their own houses, we could still lose everything, even if the federal level is cleaned up and restored to constitutionality.
but you have to do I think you would have to,
You have
no,
to.
you have to do the federal.
Totally.
No, no, but I think you have to do the
Yes.
federal first. So it's not
Yeah.
guaranteed that the second one will work, but
Yes.
it's 100% guaranteed to fail if you don't
Well,
even do the first
and
one.
that's what the oligarchs were trying. The oligarchs have been trying for the last 40 years to do what is it, a quorum of states or a constitution? What is that when all the states meet? What
Con
that's called?
Convention, constitutional convention.
Yeah, a constitutional convention or states convention or whatever it is. They've been trying that for I know of open calls. There's this many states that have agreed. They've been trying to do at the state level up for 40 years. The problem is that all this, so many of the states are corrupted in so many ways, and USAID and the NGOs and continental European monies and monies filtering through the city of London, et cetera. We're in each of these states, like my beloved California, making sure that that would never happen. So you're absolutely right. This could have happened, states up, but ultimately it couldn't. Why? Because there was too much power and corruption at the federal level.
At
So
the
if
very
that gets
top.
released
So it's,
at the
yeah,
top, right?
yeah, you
That
have
was
to,
allowing for it because now you clean up the corruption at the federal level. You break so the judiciary is increasingly taking on executive powers, which is unconstitutional under what is it? Section 2, Section 3 of the Constitution, right? So you break that, and what does that do? Now, anytime a foreign power tries to have direct influence over a state, the federal government can step in and go, oh, fuck no.
yeah.
But that hasn't been there. The federal government's been enabling that foreign state to do that.
Yeah, so I think you do have to do it's like stopping a fire. It's like first things first is like you got to
Yeah,
do
yeah,
the fire break. You got to do the
yeah,
fire
yeah,
break.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
It's not
Yeah.
guaranteed that once we do this, it's guaranteed that it won't leave this square.
Yes,
It's
yeah,
not guaranteed that we're still going to be able to save your house inside of it.
yeah.
But if we
That
don't do
every
this, it's
that every
0% chance.
fucking thing inside the ring is gonna burn down.
Yeah,
Let's
yeah,
try to
yeah,
not do
yeah,
that. But
yeah.
yeah, yeah,
But
yeah.
you do have to set the break first, and then you go.
Correct. Correct.
Now at least we have a fighting chance to do. The
Correct.
ring is the federal level, and then the inside's the states.
And then you
Not
do
guaranteed, but
rings within the ring that are
yeah,
around
none of it.
states that are, yeah,
Yeah, none of it's guaranteed, but it's like if you don't do this, it's 100% guaranteed it won't work. So
correct. So
it's
here's what concerns me. There's one state you would think this would be happening. It's Texas, and it's going the opposite direction.
well, yeah, it's because you're taking all the cancerous cells from California and putting it in Texas.
That's what they
Yeah.
like to blame, but this was happening
Okay.
long before the Californians poured in there. Everybody likes to blame shit on Californians, and I get it. I'm a
Let
Californian. All
let me
right.
go let me go piss. Tell everyone where to find your Twitter.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So Burlingame at Twitter or at X and emburlingame.substack.com for the novel As Rome Burns, which is a serial. So I think we've got 21 chapters up now. Kind of goes into much deeper concepts and themes. And then there's some books, The Art of Being a Man and the Eternal War, up on Amazon. Again, you can look by my name. A couple of business books I wrote, special operations and startups, but I wrote those when I was brain injured. So concepts are solid. Readability is not so good. Need to get an editor to fix those. Well, he's 20 years younger than me, and his bladder is even worse than mine.
Yeah, you need to watch Eagle Eye. Sorry, keep going.
Yeah. No, I I think people should take immense hope. Um, there's another thing here though, that the princes can't fight all this themselves. I did this in the Praetorian problem, the mob state problem threads, right? And I recently there's a photo of His Majesty King Charles III, and behind from 30 years ago, 40 years ago, and standing behind him, kind of in the shadows behind another fella, is Klaus Schwab.
Yeah. Oh yeah, no, I've seen that. I think I saw that with Will
And
Rand.
it's well, and everybody's like, well, His Majesty's in bed. Everybody think for a second that maybe His Majesty's a fucking hostage to the guys that Klaus Schwab's the front for, the Fourth Reich.
Yeah.
You think maybe the Praetorians, what was put in place in the 1940s with the CIA, and we talk all this stuff. It's like, do you think they wouldn't kill a king or their family in car accidents? Lord
Yeah.
Mountbatten, right? Do you think murder doesn't happen? Like that's something from the old time books. We just don't do that
Or that
anymore.
it's limited to the peasants.
Or that it's limited to the peasants.
No.
What about people need to realize the Praetorians didn't. Praetorians actually from Augustus to Constantine ruled the Roman Empire and sucked so much out of it wealth wise. Where did all that wealth go? Right? This is the other thing about the British Empire. Everybody's like, oh, the British did this, this. Where's all that wealth? They lost all their nobility, all their wealthy, truly wealthy people from way back are all gone. All that wealth's gone. All those stately homes are gone. It's all tenements now and shit. So tell me again how wealthy the British are, that there isn't something else going on there where that wealth's being sucked out. Same in the United States increasingly over the last 40 years. The Praetorians were not just the security, the close in security guys. They were the intelligence services of the time. And they were also the security, not just for the emperors, but for magistrates, for generals, for anybody that had any say anywhere in the Roman Empire. There was a Praetorian there or two with his own little detachment. So we look at the emperors that were stabbed and murdered by the Praetorians. Take a look and take a guess at how many magistrates and generals and others were also murdered as a threat or as a warning or as a message, or the family members of individuals. Do you think that's different now? So we need to be careful to think that these people are all of a mind. We need to be careful to think that all of these princes are evil, child murdering, blood, adrenochrome drinking fucks. Some of them are engaged all out in this fight within the bounds of what they can do to not get their kids and their grandkids murdered or raped and hooked on drugs and prostituted out. Things worse than murder.
Yeah, they're not all it's like a childish view that they're all evil. It's like that all capitalists are evil versus like you actually meet someone who started and founded a company. You're like, dude, I know that's my best friend's dad. You're like, that's the most legit dude out there.
Right?
Oh, he's a
And they're
capital, yeah, because he has a Rolls Royce. It's like, yeah, but he grew up dirt poor and he built a company.
so people have got to understand and got to think, and we have got to, and the Praetorians who are keeping these oligarchs enslaved know the aversion we have and feed it. But think about how clever it had to be, how he had to operate and function to embed the Constitution into one of the most powerful AI engines in the world.
Say that again. How did he what?
How clever
Why why
did
would that happen?
Elon Musk and others around have to be to embed the Constitution into the AI engine and not come under attack and be destroyed before that could grow to such an extent where it's now waging civil war on our behalf? Do you think that the other people aren't smart? You know, the ones that did ChatGPT, who stole OpenAI from him, right? Do you think they're not equally smart? How many people have died around the Clintons?
Yeah,
You think the Clintons did that?
I wouldn't. I would disagree. I wouldn't. I don't look at it as cleverness. I look at it as like a natural assumption. Elon's been talking about it since like at least in my life, as young as I remember, like the power of AI. Well, what's going into the AI? It makes sense to me that
Do
like
you
one AI would be
think
evil. I don't. I
do
guess I
you,
just don't see like the clever. To me, I go, no, it makes perfect sense that he would. Well, does it
well, it
work?
makes no, absolutely. But to think naively that the
That they wouldn't
regime,
do a preemptive attack
correct,
like
correct,
Iran nuclear or something. It's like
correct, or just
preemptive
go
before
after
it
his
goes on.
kids,
But
go
before it
after,
goes online, yeah. Okay. All right. No, yeah, fair enough.
right?
How do you covertly build your own Natanz enrichment facility?
How
Got
is Trump back in office? What the point I'm getting,
it.
and they
Yeah.
tried to openly kill him on public TV. So the point I'm getting at is that people think that these oligarchs are not embedded in a space of total war every minute of every
Yeah.
day, and they're not compromised by their own security teams that come from one in the United States, one of four entities, and in Britain, one of two in the United Kingdom, the SAS and MI6, and maybe MI5.
Yeah.
Or adjuncts thereof. In the United States, it's Green Berets, Navy SEALs, CIA paramilitaries, or the FBI,
Yeah.
or maybe some law enforcement, but that's the lower level people. But all of that's adjacent to who? The
Well, yeah.
CIA.
Well, yeah. It's like, yeah, are they your security team or your handlers?
You're owned. You're
You
owned and
can't, yeah.
controlled.
Is there any real difference if there's five guys around me with guns? Are they my security team or are they my captives or captors?
Clay Martin said this, right? In a conversation he was having with some financial group people. And he said, I didn't hear it, but he said you could hear a pin drop. He's like, all this stuff you're building, does it belong to you or to your head of security?
Well, yeah. No, it's always that. It's always that. I mean,
It's the mercenary problem that I
it's
wrote
the
about.
Bane from Batman. I gave you a small fortune, and does this make you feel in charge?
That bing,
Yeah,
bing, bing,
yeah.
bing.
Does this make
Because
you
you, as a
feel in
wealthy
charge?
person, can be replaced. I cannot replace my
Yeah,
power, which comes from my belonging to certain
yeah.
organizations and entities.
All you could have is have maybe competing security forces and try to keep them against one another.
Well, there's a Sean McFate, I think, at Georgetown did billionaire warlords. I highly recommend it. It's a short 12-minute video on YouTube. But the point being is this. I'm going to use the disclosures as, people being all upset that there's no disclosures. And the other one that came up here recently was RFK Jr. coming out yesterday, I think it was, and saying that autism rise is environmental instead of all the stuff he's written about. Well, do you think that he might not have
Yeah,
security people around him that threatened his life, like they killed his father
yeah.
and
No,
his
I mean, my first
uncle?
thought watching him, I was just like, he doesn't. Just the way he was standing, I'm like, oh, he's got a gun to his head.
Right? And people are like, oh, it's okay. And they don't have to have a gun to his
Which
house.
then
It could be
raises
his
the question.
grandkid or
Yeah, but
great grandkid.
then that raises the question. It's like, well, you know, are Trump and Elon on our side, or if because if he can be held captive, you would think that as like one of the big names that Trump would assert the power and not unless of course I don't know unless you're trying to show that the captors exist, I guess.
No, it's way more complicated than that, right? It's way more sophisticated.
It's
What
not a monolith. It's not.
it's not a monolith,
Got it.
and the
Yeah.
way in which it works specifically is that it keeps people and princes at conflict with one another constantly, and it prevents the most ancient of models and the most natural models from emerging, where the people rise up in defense of the prince physically. Because that's how these regimes get torn down. That's how the Praetorian Guard was finally destroyed 300 years on by Constantine. Constantine had his own armies, his own men. They did not use the Praetorians. They did not allow the Praetorians in the eastern part of the empire. He had loyalty from his people at every level, and then he went to war with them. Well, how do you make sure that if you are a violent, virulent, parasitic regime, how do you make sure that doesn't happen to you? You keep the people from realizing the threat that the princes are under, the mortal, constant, everyday threat. And every once in a while, you'll off a prince as an example, but it'll be some crazy or it'll be some, right? I mean, people who know. It's like, we can do it, we can get to you. And the people wonder and question. But we're at a stage right now where all the constitutional reset, English civilizational reset stuff is happening. It's brilliant. It's beautiful. Blows my mind. I am dumbfounded and astounded. But what comes next as the regime that has built its trillions of dollars a year power system off of that, and its abuse systems off of that. Do you think they're going to just stand by because they lose the courts battles, the
No,
constitutional battle?
no. And you have to remember, much like we're talking about this, theoretical discussion of like, well, if the United States goes down, what does that look like in real dollars and production capabilities? You gotta remember, like, in its most cynical sense, is the Trump Elon et al. Group is the you could say they're and it's a negative connotation, but I can't think of a better word. They're the parasite for the host that is the United States, you could say, and the current or the Fourth Reich are a parasite. Now, again, it's different than mandate. I understand that, but just to put it in the most gray terms or black and white terms, the Fourth Reich, they're also going, I don't want to nuke New York. That does a lot for us. I don't want to destroy the oil facilities. I will, but I don't want to. So you almost
Well, they don't actually care because they're already trying to move on to
resentful.
China.
They would rather rule. Like, I don't know. They would rather rule
Yeah.
over the kingdom of
At
ashes
this point,
than.
what they do is they, as a like a virus, and they're basically viruses, and they work and function and think and operate just like and replicate just like
Yeah,
viruses. Um, at this point, if they look and realize that the immune system of the host is too has gained the advantage that they can't adapt to, they'll flare and they'll try to kill the host.
yeah. Because
And
ultimately, it's just resent. It's fuck you. If
that's
I
right.
can't have her, no one can.
That's right.
Murder
That's right.
suicide. Yeah.
That's right. So, um,
So then the good
now,
guys would theoretically, you would look at that, you'd be very honest and sober about that and go, well, how can we minimize it?
well, I want to go back to something you just articulated about the oligarchs and princes being parasites. They're not.
Yeah, I
They're
know
the
they're, I know,
host. They're the host. They're
yeah,
the host,
got it.
right? And
Got
we are
it.
cells in that
In the,
body, right? We're all
got it.
one body, the healthy ones. We're all one body, and we're just different cells of different function type and capacity. We're not the virus. The virus, the resentfuls are the virus, and that's what we're dealing
The,
with.
the reason I put it in those terms is for whenever I'm trying to look at something as soberly as I can, I always remove emotion and just use it as an example. Instead of like the home team versus the away guys, I try to just look
Well,
at it in
I
terms
totally
of,
get it, but
so I'm just looking
I,
at it as like operating systems.
yeah,
Fourth
well, I
Reich
totally
operating
get it.
system, America Republic operating
There
system.
you go. Yeah,
That's how I remove emotion.
English civilization
Well,
operating system, of which the American economic system
but I do that so I can see it more clearly. That's
Well,
how
I
I
get
try to
it,
look
but
at it. Yeah.
point being is this, okay?
But no,
And
we
I
are the host
totally get it.
versus, yeah.
We are one body, and we are
Yeah.
just different cells within that
Yeah,
body,
yeah,
and
yeah.
we
No,
have
I
to
agree.
think
I
in that
agree.
way, or we won't care when what we think is one virus kills another one. And
Yeah.
that's the problem. They want us to think that these people are, the Fourth Reich, the resentfuls need us to think that we are being parasitically lived upon by Elon and Trump and everybody else. No. How many jobs have they created? How much wealth have they created? How many, how, I'll use Elon as one example. How many billionaires has
Uh,
Elon created?
Oh, yeah.
Billionaires.
From
How
investing.
many
Yeah.
centimillionaires? How many millionaires? Thousands of millionaires,
Yeah.
not just investing, but
Yeah. No.
employees in his various companies. He's created, and people don't think about, oh, the wealthiest man in the world. Yes, but starting with PayPal, how many billionaires came out of that? Right? So, how many billionaires, how many centimillionaires, how many millionaires, how many people with hundreds of thousands of dollars as current and former employees were created by Elon alone?
Yeah, it's not just a battle between CEOs of some current corporation. It's like,
No,
no, no, no. This is the
no.
founder and CEO. This is the guy that started it, built it all, built the factories. And yes, he currently is the CEO. But the new
Yes.
guy coming in, he didn't build this. So it's not quite the same. It's not like
Yeah.
50th generation CEO.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
like,
yeah, yeah.
this is the founder. And then that's
Yes.
some new guy that's trying to do
Yeah.
a hostile
And
takeover.
Trump took, I don't remember what it was, $40 million and turned it into 10 billion. How many millionaires has Trump made in that pathway?
Okay,
And I'm
yeah,
not
I
talking
see
about
what you're
it,
saying.
right?
Yeah.
I'm not talking about investors. I'm talking about employees who had stock options,
Yeah,
employees who
no, no,
had, right?
the legitimate meat and the meat and
Yes.
potatoes
Yeah, yeah,
of the
yeah, yeah,
whole
yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
It's not just the. I see
Yeah.
what you're saying.
Yeah. So these guys are part of the body. But the Fourth Reich, the resentfuls, they are not. They are straight up parasites, and we cannot equate the two. And those parasites have been living off of us and killing us and fentanyling us and human trafficking us and indebting us and all that other stuff. Well, guess what? These higher level cells in the body, Elon, Trump, and others, they're just as much under attack. And in fact, they're under attack way more
Well, they're
attack than
probably
we
because they're
are.
prioritized. They're priority
Because
targets.
correct.
Yeah, so you do have these two kind of like scalding nuclear cores at the center. You have one, which is we have one of like, well, if I can't own this, I'll burn it all down.
Yeah,
And then I know
yeah,
this personally just from, people that like my show are like, "Oh, I hate it when, Tommy's show gets censored or, where I've had people like they impersonate my show, like they'll make an email and people are like, that's mean. And I'm like, I can't put into words the rage I feel when I see it because I'm like, this is my fucking bait,
yeah,
like,
yeah,
and
yeah.
I go
Because you
insane.
worked your
So
ass
then it's
off
a,
for it.
so
Yeah,
then
yeah,
it's
yeah,
like,
yeah.
yeah, they have the whole resentful, I'll burn it all down, but it's like, don't take off like there is a blind rage. It's actually love for your thing.
Correct,
There's a blind rage. I mean, we're seeing
correct.
it's a great battle.
Tommy, to you personally, with your show, how many people have you helped get a message out that needed to get out?
Oh yeah, no, I know.
How many people have you helped, not just your guests, but in the audience, think through some complex space that's helped them out?
Sure. Yeah, I have no idea. I have no way to know that.
It's thousands at least,
Yeah.
thousands, hundreds of guests and thousands of people listening. It hasn't brought you the monetary returns that I think
Uh,
you're
Not yet,
due.
but it's coming. I know it's coming.
I think you're due that. But in terms of contribution as as a type of cell in this English civilization American body, you're making amazing contributions. And anybody who comes and tries to live off that parasitically or take from that or reduce that, the rest of the body should step in and go, yeah, fuck you.
So if someone comes in and goes, actually, I'm going to be the new host of Tommy's podcast. No, someone else can't go, what do I care? It's one host versus another. It's like, no, no, no. That's Tommy of Tommy's podcast. And
Correct.
I'm going, no, 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 no. So
Correct.
it is different. So it's not it's not, sorry, it's not
Right.
parasite to parasite of a host. It's the actual
That's right.
apex of a host
That's
versus
right.
a
That's right.
parasite that mimics the
It's
apex.
like if when we get cancers is when cells turn on the body, when certain cells turn on. So I don't I got liver cells and kidney cells and spleen cells and pancreas cells and different types of neurons and all of that. They're all part of the body. And if any one of them was, and they have different competing needs and requirements and all of that, I can't look at any one of I can't the body to function can't look at itself and go, well, that's a parasitic cell. It's like, no, motherfucker, that's a spleen cell,
Yeah.
right? Now, if it's a parasite and it's a legitimate parasite, then absolutely.
But
But the rest of the body has to also respond and recognize, oh, no, 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 the one under attack, the kidneys that are under attack, that's part of the body. And what's attacking the kidneys is not. Let's all go to war with that.
got it. And
If
it's,
not, then they're parasites, they're viruses that do this, by the way. They mimic,
yeah,
right? They're mimics,
aggressive mimicry. Yeah.
aggressive mimicry, like HIV is one of the most brilliant ones. And what does it do? It gets the immune system to turn on itself
Yeah.
with the very argument that you didn't intentionally, but you started with. No,
Yeah.
we got to realize these people are part of the body and they're locked in all out war. There's cancer in there. There's freaking viruses in there. Every minute of the day, people are trying to destroy them in every way possible. We're not dealing with a tiny fraction of that, and yet they're still in it. It doesn't mean that they have limited power. If RFK Jr. stands up tomorrow and says everything that he knows and makes it public, he'll be dead or his kids will be dead. And then how the hell is he in the fight?
Yeah, that's the other thing is it's yeah, when it's like, well, he should just go up and take the bullet. And it's like, sure, that's romantic, but it's like pragmatically, if you're trying to win the fight, what does that actually do?
Well, and how many of the motherfuckers calling for him to take the bullet have ever even seen a bullet
Well, and that's the
or
other thing.
gotten
It's like,
anywhere near a
well,
fucking
that's the other
bullet?
thing. It's like, well, what have you sacrificed? It's sometimes like I'll find myself if I'm like, how come Rogan doesn't have on this person or that person? It's also like, well, well, what have I interviewed that person? Have I, and if I have interviewed someone, I can be like, no, I did it too, and I got blowback. You should, but I can't make some self-righteous call that he should interview this if I've never done it. So I'm like, you should
Look
interview
at the
Trump. Well,
look at the
Tommy, would you?
reach
I'm
he's
like,
had, and
yeah,
like you've had a lot of controversial people come on and say controversial things at controversial times.
it's great.
It's a delicate dance because there's been other times, and you and I haven't talked about this, so I'm supposing, but I know your type, right? Uh, there are other guests that you've said no to
Yeah.
because it would have blown up the community. It would have created a caustic, toxic mess that would have removed the ability for you to talk to the ones that are saying the hard things that need to be said, but aren't going to blow up the whole ability to have a conversation.
And you got to be really fucked to not to get turned down to come on this show. Because I will have on anyone that will talk about. I mean, my two.
Well, I saw it the other day with the guy calling who and who a Nazi
Oh yeah,
or
and I was
whatever he
like, well,
was, the Jew
that's
boy
another
or
thing is
whatever.
that's how I
Yeah,
shut a lot of
yeah,
people up. Is I go, come on the
yeah,
show. And by
yeah,
the way,
yeah,
that
yeah,
wasn't
yeah.
a bluff. I
Yeah,
absolutely
no,
on the
yeah,
show.
yeah,
Tell me
yeah,
how
yeah,
Tom
yeah,
DeLonge is a Jew. I don't give a fuck. Like,
yeah, yeah,
so,
yeah.
but no, but the two parameters for the show have always been the no public calling for violence and no pedophilia. The third one, because almost no one violates the first two, the third one is you can't talk about another guest on my show. You can't do it on my show because they're not here. I don't care what you do
We
offline.
don't do
I don't
behind your
care what you
back.
do on
Yeah,
Twitter.
yeah, yeah,
I
yeah, yeah.
and some people are so toxic that they can't do that. They'll be on my show and be like, "Well, this doctor." I'm like, "Hey, you gotta because now you're ruining my business. Now I have a doctor, or now I have guests that haven't yet come on the show who are going, "Oh, Tommy might run my name through the
Well,
mud."
what was that? What is that saying? I can't remember the exact saying, but basically, little minds talk about people.
Yeah,
If you can't talk, big minds talk about concepts and ideas. Little minds talk
yeah.
about people, right?
If you can't zip
So,
it for just my show, I'm not telling you what you can't even.
right?
You can get off my show, go on Twitter, and say,
Yeah,
"I just
you can
did
go in the
Tommy's pod."
comments to the show
You
that
go
you did
and
together.
and talk shit about
Yeah,
whoever.
yeah, 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 yeah,
God bless. Because what that leaves
yeah,
me is I can tell other guests, I go, hey, you're allowed to I tell if you guys this.
yeah,
I'm like, I can't control what another adult does offline. Yeah,
yeah,
but if
yeah,
you're
yeah,
such a
yeah,
fuck it, but the point is like, so what are you willing to sacrifice? So like those are my parameters.
yeah.
And then so if someone else has much more, you know, less courageous parameters, I do feel that I have the right to go, no, you're a pussy. Have that person on your show. I can't make claims of people that I haven't done. And so that's
Yeah.
I can't say Bobby Kennedy should go up and go do this, that, or the other thing because one, I'm not willing to I don't even have a family to be sacrificed, but I'm not willing to do that. And second, and
Exactly.
another
He had
thing
his
is
father and his
my
uncle
last name's not
murdered.
Kennedy. There's also not
Yeah,
a precedent.
yeah,
There's not a, this, when I
yeah.
say Kerrigan, people don't go, oh yeah.
There isn't a punk band
I was gonna
named
say there's not a
after a
band called the
family
Dead
called Dead
Kerrigans.
Kid. Dead
Yeah, like
Kerrigans.
he has every guy. He might even have more of a maybe not Trump because Trump himself was shot at.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
There's almost no one else alive who has the right to at any moment tap out.
Or to just self-censor.
Yeah,
But he's self-censoring. He's still in it.
yeah, and
He's still engaged.
it's better to have him and live another day to fight and
And that's the thing, right? We've got to accept that these princes are part of the body, the good ones. They're not extraneous to, they're not parasites. In fact, we wouldn't have the fucking jobs. We wouldn't have the wealth, the portfolio stuff to invest in, et cetera, if they weren't out there. God bless them. Are they perfect? Are they good guys? Hell, I don't know. I will say this. I've known a good number of billionaires in my life, whole lot of centimillionaires. for the most part, with only a few small handful of exceptions, pretty damn good human beings. Were they naive? Was their reality being shaped by the gatekeepers around them? Oh,
Probably.
invariably so.
Yeah.
But once you get in on the inside and you're sitting down and talking to them, they're pretty smart. They're very well knowledgeable, and they're pretty damn. I've again with there's a small handful. Now you get down into the millionaire, the tens of millions and the millions. I met a lot of assholes down there.
We have a lot of shitheads who hit a
A
glass.
lot of shitty fucking human
I've met some
beings down
insanely
there.
wealthy people through this show, and yeah, it shouldn't be a surprise when you go, "Hey, that guy's really put together. He's never late and he works hard." Huh? How do you think he made a lot of money?
Made a lot of money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey,
And
that Tom
didn't
Brady
make
guy's
it
got
by
a real
screwing a
work
bunch of
ethic.
people over because
We
that
can't
doesn't last.
because I don't you can only do that within a small time frame. That guy's
Well,
business.
unless you're in investment banking.
I was gonna say it's like, well, and not only that, he's a good guy with a good. It's like, well, you can't build a business over 50 years if
Correct.
your reputation is a dog
Correct.
shit.
Correct. This is the
Uh,
same thing when people think about tyrants. It's like, uh, you ever looked at history? Tyrants don't last very long. Real tyrants, actual muscle and bone kind of tyrants, force of arms, they don't last very long.
And if they do, it's a North Korea type thing where it's like, are you even, what's even the value
Well, you're
of that?
supported by the
Well,
outside
there's
for
a yeah,
reasons they
external,
have.
that's a fair
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
point.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
There's an external blood source. Yeah.
Correct. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. You're microcosm because you serve an informational purpose in the world or threat purpose. So, we got to get back to that's, what I'm saying.
Well,
We got to get back to the fact that these other cells are part of we are all members of the English civilization. Those of us that are healthy, that are still in accordance with the Constitution, the Magna Carta, Alfred the Great's Book of Laws, where that all started, the Dane Law, which is where all that started before, with some stuff from the Britons and others. If you adhere to that, we're all the same body. If as that, accepting that, understand that we're all under attack. And those that have the higher functions in the body, the more critical functions, the more resources, the more responsibilities, they're under attacks in ways that you can't even freaking comprehend every minute of the day. And they have to self-censor, or their grandkids might get kidnapped. It's not like it didn't happen to a Getty,
mhm.
right? It's not like it hasn't happened to others, and not in some mystical past, but 50 years ago, 40 years ago, when I was a kid.
I
It's not like it didn't happen to Patty Hearst.
was gonna say Private Empire by Steve Call about ExxonMobil. It starts with when was Exxon Valdez? Was that 80s or 90s?
80s, 80s.
Not
Yeah.
so a couple it was a couple years after that. Their like CEO or CTO was kidnapped and killed
Yes.
because they didn't get the ransom.
Yes.
That's not literally like in the
Yes.
80s. That's like
And these are
right.
corporate people. This is not RFK Jr. That's not Donald Trump. These are
This is
corporate people that
ExxonMobil.
it
This is
happens all the
like
time.
yeah.
I have two friends of mine, colleagues. I wouldn't call them friends. Yeah, I guess we're friends. The way these kinds of guys can be friends, and they both do that kind of recovery work, and it's way more common than people realize.
Oh
And
yeah.
it's not always the individual. It's sometimes their kids
Well yeah. Why
or
would
assets.
why wouldn't you if you're this is where I get into the whole like earlier when I said remove emotion. Like, yeah, no, it's evil. I get that. But no, like, why wouldn't you? I
Well,
look
it's
at it as like
business.
I look at it
It's
as like a
resentful's
yeah.
business.
I
It's
just
the way
look
they
at it
do
as
their
like a
business.
fucked up video game. I'm like, how would you get to that person? Well, if you
Yeah,
can't get to
yeah,
that person, get to the kids. And if you can't get to the kids, get to the kid's best friend. I don't, it's not
yeah. Yes,
right, but you have to be honest
yeah,
about how it happens. And so
yes,
back to what you said about people have to be hopeful. You do because much like the Declaration of Independence, it's like you're not guaranteed to have your life or your assets after. You're almost certainly guaranteed to have neither if you don't do anything. You could argue, well, no, if you join the evil power, then you can keep your stuff. Sure,
maybe.
maybe, but even then, there is a lot to say. Like, well, what do you have if you gain everything and don't have your soul? Like, there is, it's not uncommon that a lot of people have a conscience and they go, well, I don't really feel good about that. So a lot of it's kind of like, yeah, no, it's not a perfect chance that we're gonna win, but like you gotta do something.
You
You
got
do
to
have to, and
sign
it's not a
the
0% chance
declaration.
either.
You got to sign the declaration, and then you have to all stand together no matter what comes.
Yeah. And it's like and then and so there's precedent because you look back at like the Declaration of Independence to now, it'd be like, yeah, I'd say it was worth it. The amount of good, talking about like
Yeah.
how many jobs
Yes.
Zealand created, how much good has the United States created
Yes.
in a quarter millennia?
Yes.
Yeah, I
Yes.
would say probably dwarfing anything else.
Yes.
So one,
Yes.
it's the right thing to do.
And we've lost our way in the last 50 years. Let's be honest
Of
about
course, yeah,
that.
yeah, Korea,
Right.
Vietnam, but all that should
All
be why
well, and
not.
all the assassinations and the
Yeah, no, I'm
coups,
not.
all
No, I'm not saying it
yeah, yeah,
hasn't
yeah,
grown
yeah.
bloated and decayed. Um,
But we can reset and we're in it.
yeah, but then there's
We're in
also,
it.
and I always get to this is like, you know, there's always like worst case, and then there's always like, well, best case, what happens? What if you got everything? Blah blah blah. And I always walk it out to like, and I don't say this in a nihilist way at all. Like worst case scenario, best case scenario. Best case scenario, I'd say it's all world peace, we become spacefaring, blah blah blah. What eventually
It's
happens?
boring.
Well, it's not only that. No, it's just you check out. You do die.
Well, what winds up happening is like the conversation you and I had about the resentfuls. What winds up happening, you wind up creating evil again because you're bored,
But let's say you don't even do.
or or
Let's
you
just
or you're
like
just not paying attention.
let's say there's an anomaly just for this thought. Let's say that doesn't even happen. What eventually happens? You get old and die. So my point is like there is no preserving it all and going, well, I'm gonna just no. You do get old and you do die. So it's like play the game. Throw the fucking chips on the table. Like take your nuts out. Like don't be stupid, but at the same time, man, like the game ends.
At some point,
It does take down to
somebody's
zero.
gonna flip the table that you're at in
Yeah,
your
and
life, and you're done.
it's
And
so
all your cards and all your fancy, use Tom Luongo's right board game stuff. At some point, no matter how well he's playing the game, death comes along and flips the
yeah,
table,
and
and all that's gone.
I don't
Yeah,
think that's a nihilist personally. I believe in
yeah.
God, but even if you don't, I don't think it's like a nihilist thing to say, well, eventually you
No,
die. No, it's a
no.
there's a timer and it goes, hey, it does end, man. So like
So
you go, oh, if I sign this Declaration of Independence, it might not work. Okay, but like, hey, it does eventually end. Sign it or not, you're clocking at what, it's 1776? Your life expectancy is like 50, man.
well, you either when the times come, and it's not always that the all the confluence of things comes together, so it's the right time to do a Declaration of Independence and then
Mm.
fight it out, adjudicate it.
Yeah.
But we're in one of those times. When that comes and you don't, I'm going to tell you quite honestly, from the special
Oh, and if
operations
the good
world,
guys do win, by the way, you
and
are
you didn't
fucking as good as,
participate,
yeah, even if you took the middle ground, even if you weren't a conspirator, hey man, good luck arguing that.
that's exactly
I
it.
wasn't sure who was gonna win
Yeah,
against.
yeah, yeah, yeah. It's like you got a right to live, you're good, but you're out.
Yeah.
Anything that matters, you're out because you didn't either you didn't sign the declaration and stand to with everybody else, which the founding fathers did, by the way. They swore an oath they signed an oath to one another as the declaration, life and liberty, and to come to the defense of. Okay, well, we're now in that time again. I think this last election was that declaration. Okay, so you did the right thing. You signed the declaration. You stood and fought. You took all this stuff on the chin. But if you don't stand with the princes now and what's happening and what's coming on the other side, I don't give a fuck who you are. I'm not going to come after you. I'm not going to come take anything. But you want to have a real conversation
Yeah,
where you get to participate in anything that we're making serious decisions about. Yeah, fuck off.
what a
You can go
tort.
sit at the kids' table.
You'd almost rather be killed. Because otherwise you just live in this weird, neutered,
Go back to
dunce cap.
the Revolutionary War and look
Yeah.
at how colonials who didn't participate were
Yeah.
treated
Oh, who's that?
afterwards.
No, he wasn't one of the bad guys, but he stood by in the center. Oh. Oh, that guy. Yeah, you're not a man. That's a
So
that's
the
kind of worse than
British,
that.
which we are fucking English and British as much as we don't like to believe, but culturally and civilization, the British in I don't remember where this began actually, but it really was used in the 1800s and early 1900s, a little bit less and less into World War One, but it was the white feather. Are you familiar with this?
Yeah, you put it in, yeah, the,
You know, the
in
card, and you put the feather in it if your friend isn't participating in the defense of the Rome.
yeah,
It's a very real thing.
it's a
We don't do
different
the
kind of
feathers anymore.
a different kind of death.
Personally, I think that's total death,
Oh, I would much rather be shot in the head.
right?
I'd much rather lose and go and still, even the bad guys wouldn't still look at me and be like, yeah, fuck you, faggot. Like that, like I'd still
Right?
rather take the bullet to the face, like, because that's all you have left.
Well, guys actually killed themselves who got white feathers.
That's what I mean. Is like, so I would rather that's and that might I don't mean I don't know if that's just like a predisposition to being a man or different levels of different hormones, but I've always said that like I would legitimately rather die than fail. I say that about the podcast. I said there's
I'd
only
rather
one
die
scenario,
than
and
be a coward.
that's what I mean. So like I always say,
Yeah.
I'm like, there's no failing for the podcast. It's either that it hasn't worked yet or clinical brain death. Otherwise, I don't care what caused the clinical
Well,
brain.
we hope it hasn't failed so far because of clinical brain death.
Oh yeah, or that, or I'm retarded, right? Or I am, or I have no idea. I am a walking vegetable.
Because
But
I'm a
like,
retard.
yeah, because I'm a retarded. But I look at it and and so when people go like, really, like it's you're that radical about the pod, not like defending like kids
Yeah,
or,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
but I go, yeah, no, I would. There is something in me where I would go, I would rather die than fail. And I don't know, is that
Because
evolution?
you're in the fight with your podcast. You're engaged in the fight and you're not showing you're demonstrating that while you're not in the physical fight, you're not a coward because you're in the fight. And in the modern world where combat is maybe 1% of the fight, 1%,
Yeah,
even in war,
yeah,
declared war, there's the fact that you could be canceled at any moment, the fact that, the state that you live in could send somebody after you, et cetera, and you're demonstrating a lack of cowardice, and then you're ludicrously hilarious, sometimes borderline inappropriate comments on Twitter, which I love, by the way.
yeah,
Cut that out. I don't want anybody to hear that.
yeah, no,
Um, but what you're doing with your show is you are building an asset of a communications platform for people so word can get out, conversations can be had. And at the same time, the thing that you're doing extraordinarily well is demonstrating a lack of cowardice. And
yeah.
your audience has to gain, they see that themselves maybe in their own life. And some of your audience, some of your guests, it's no different than walking into I mean, it is different. So I don't want to say that,
Yeah.
but deep down in the value it's providing, it's demonstrating a lack of cowardice on your part. And that, more than anything else in these times, is the message that has to get out to people. Do not be, you can be afraid.
You can be that's all
You
well
can
and good
be
to be
afraid.
afraid. That's
Don't
fine.
be a coward.
Yeah. You can be scared of the fucking thing in front of you, dude.
Absolutely.
I do
I'm
not
not gonna
want.
lie. Every once in a while, I am.
I get to there too. Well, because when I have someone like Dale who's in Delta Force, tell myself be like, you should maybe. I'm like, oh, I if Dale's telling me like you should maybe, stay inside. I'm like, that's horrifying. But
Yeah.
like, you're allowed to be scared. That's fine. But it's just, and for me, it's just like,
For
I,
me, it's not fear for myself. I have a daughter. I'm a father of a
yeah. Well, no,
daughter, and
that's
and
a
I've got a brother
yeah. No, that's
and
that.
family. And for me, I'm like, dude, I've touched everything I could possibly touch already in life.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I don't know. For me, there's. I mean, I think it is like still me. It's like there's like an I don't know what it is. I don't know what fucking like psychological like Jungian thing this is. But there's like an image of like the ideal me in my mind, and it's like it's watching me, and it's like I know if you give up. Like even in college studying organic chemistry is like it's fine if you give it your all and you don't do well. You gave it your all, but you didn't study that one last night. You gave up. And then there's just part of me that's just looking at like it's just like, and it's this. There's no negotiating with. It's just
yeah, yeah,
disgust. It's like
yeah, yeah.
I share DNA with you. You pussy. And so when I see that, it's less about like what do the audience think or what do others think or how will I be remembered. There's a Tommy in me that's like You don't have the fucking balls to speak truth into a
That's
microphone,
that's
you
courage.
bitch.
That's what courage is, though, right?
Okay.
Courage is standing up to the weakness. Courage is standing up to the excuses we make for ourselves to be acting from a place of cowardice.
Yeah. Doesn't mean you can't be scared.
That's courage. No, you can be scared. You can
Sure,
be
you fucking.
scared. You can
I've
have
been so I've
fear.
been so freaked out from things I've done on this show
Yeah,
before.
yeah,
I've
yeah.
thrown up. Like that's fine. You can be scared, but dude, you
But you
gotta
do it.
act. You gotta
But you do
act.
it.
Yeah, I just.
I've known guys that have throw up going into a gun battle.
Well, yeah, that's fine.
And then once they're in the gun battle, they're calm as hell.
Yeah, it's fine to fucking be scared of shit. But I don't know. And not only that, I just think of like how stupid would I feel? You die, go to heaven or whatever, afterlife or whatever, the general idea of like a place of like bodiless pain and you're around your loved ones who's gone
Yeah.
before you. The broad idea. I just imagine just like generations of like Carrigan's looking at me and just being like, yeah, no, I mean, listen, you're allowed to do whatever you want. And I'm like, no, I tried my hardest. And they're like, you tried pretty hard. Now you're hard. And there's just part of me that's like, how embarrassed I'd feel. They're like, yeah, no, we watched you every step of the way, man. I'd be like, there's just like a level of embarrassment. I don't know.
Well,
And
you're
it's,
you're Irish. You guys got that shame and guilt thing,
yeah,
which
parents,
works. That's why you guys have been
it
so damn
worked.
successful.
No, yeah, it just,
But if I might, I want to touch on something here about
yeah,
courage, right? And I don't, I had no idea the conversation would go this way, of course. But I want to go back to RFK. I want to go back to Elon. I want to go back to Trump, to Tulsi, to Hegseth, and the others. Running into a hail of bullets is not courage. Sometimes it has to happen, but it's not courage. Conducting yourself in a fight that you know you're going to be engaged in from every direction always across time and doing the best you can for every yourself and everybody involved from your family out, that's courage. Running into a hail of bullets that's the Leroy Jenkins shit. Leroy Jenkins.
Leroy.
Right? Was Leroy Jenkins a hero? Was Leroy Jenkins courageous? No, he just got the shit over with.
Yeah, pulled the
The
band-aid.
guys that stay in the fight, like RFK Jr., and I get why people are saying, et cetera, but it's like, motherfuckers, do you take for a second the member, his own father murdered, his uncle, the sitting president of the United States, murdered. And so he doesn't say, he doesn't Leroy Jenkins in front of the
Yeah,
fucking TV. He's not courageous. He's a coward. Shut the fuck up, people.
yeah,
You're a little bitch coward saying that, sitting behind your goddamn keyboard with not fuck all involved in any form or fashion in any of this. Somebody should jackboot into your house and slap you. I'm not calling for that, by the way. But I mean, the honest truth is, it would wake a lot of people up. I think we should go back to dueling personally. That's just me. But point being is that people, we have got to realize, as Elon did with coding the Constitution into an AI engine now, the honest truth of the matter is that the Constitution is now living in an AI engine and it's fighting civil war on our behalf, and it's with humans, right? It's a partnership. It's not the AI doing it. We're not even close to that capability. But somebody took the time and energy and effort and forethought to do that, knowing that some member of his security could have been compromised and killed him
yeah,
to prevent that. And now we're winning. We're winning this return to constitutionality in the United States because of that. Trump took a bullet to the ear. He stayed in it. First of all, he took all the legal actions, the tens of millions of dollars he's had to spend in legal defenses for frivolous, stupid lawsuits against corrupt judges and district attorneys, et cetera, who are now all quite legally coming under legal actions themselves. And this Letitia James, I called that one in, totally unrelated to Trump. I was working with a certain ultra high net worth family, one of the highest, I won't say. And I called her out just from some research I was doing, the monies that were pouring into her through Brooklyn, et cetera. A lot of them through a certain ethnic group that I won't mention, or those associated with. I don't know what that's about, so I'm not saying right. Could have just been political and yada yada. But um, most of them out of Europe, continental Europe. Same thing in Nevada back in 2020, 2019. But again, point being is this: people we're winning, we're fighting. They're engaged all out. They have immense tools that they've spent years investing billions of dollars in. They have very capable people who are using those tools properly. They are still constantly at threat, they and their family members. Elon has 12 kids. You have any idea how hard it is to secure 12 kids and their mothers, especially him because he's got a whole lot of baby mamas? God bless him, by the way. You know what? Elon is like achieved boss level autist.
Yeah. He's got a harem.
He's got a harem. I mean, that's like boss level autist.
It's not cool.
Yeah. Yeah. So, but
But no,
again,
but all
have
these are,
courage.
I was gonna say
Have
all
courage.
these are
Have faith.
reasons to have courage and to be like,
Yes.
look, man, there's some like real motherfuckers in the fight. Like it's
And people have actively tried to shoot and kill them and blow them up. And we all know it because it happened recently. Don't think that's not
yeah,
happening all the time. Don't think that they're not constantly
they don't, yeah,
in
that yeah.
mortal danger
The
every
security teams
minute.
aren't gonna do a press conference every time they foil a plot. That's it's counterintuitive. You'd want to be quiet about that.
You want to be
But
quiet
not only
about
that,
it.
it's courage is contagious and
There you go.
and
And
it's
that's why
you
the
really do have
algos
to
are
like get
tuning to keep us saying shit against RFK, et cetera. Because if we don't
these
see that person
demoralization
as
campaigns.
courageous, then exactly, then
Yeah.
that courage doesn't become contagious.
Yeah, no, and it's like, yeah, it's like it's not all for nothing. It's like keep going, keep pushing,
Well,
keep.
let's touch on there for a second, okay? Because you just articulated that courage is contagious for the enemies as well. And look at Luigi, whatever the fuck his name is, Mangione or
Mangione,
whatever.
yeah.
Look at the fucktard, the Reich babies who are coming out calling for violence, etc. Why? Because we're all fighting each other, calling our leaders cowards,
Mm,
and meanwhile they're looking at their murderous evil, leaders and their cult leaders, etc., and how courageous they were, and their courage is building up. Meanwhile, we're allowing our own stupidity and algorithms and conversations to keep us from recognizing the courage in our own leaders.
mm.
Well, guess what happens when this goes hot? They have the advantage initially. And if we can survive that, then the advantage will turn around, et cetera. But what's happening is they are building their what's called confidence targets. Okay. It's what we do in special operations, particularly unconventional warfare. It's called confidence targets. You build up the courage and confidence of your guerrilla forces while psyoping the cowardice and fear of the leaders that our guerrilla forces are going up against. It's doctrine. Our oligarchs are doing incredible things like fighting civil war constitutionally all out in the courts right now using AI tools to augment really smart humans who are paid a good amount of money on their nickel, not the governments, not NGOs. They invested that money, their own monies. And they're out there fighting it, despite the fact that they tried to kill the now sitting president twice that we know of.
Oh
And we know
yeah.
that there was two other attempts in his 2016 run, by the way, one of which got within a foot and a half of him. Okay? They're still in it. We need to stop, and RFK Jr. is still in it. We need to stop looking at these people as cowards. They are not. They are all in this. They have signed the Declaration of Independence and they have committed life and fortunes. And it is retarded for us to think that they should just run into a hail of bullets every time they get put into an ambush. Fuck that.
I would say you're allowed to be
Question.
angry at any, yeah,
Yeah.
and I would also say like
Yeah.
you'd want to be careful about it itself becoming contagious, but at the same time, like, yeah, what you also don't want to do is rightfully or wrongfully, you don't want that to become a carte blanche explanation for why you can't criticize. Hey, they're in the
Absolutely.
right because well then you start
Criticize all you want.
but
Don't
then you
call him
start
a
to yeah
fucking coward,
sure, but then
right? That's a
you don't want to
yeah.
disillusion your people in the ranks if they go we're not allowed to criticize
Correct.
anyone because
Correct.
so it's
I you
yeah
do not
it's a balance.
demoralize your own leaders or your own people when you're in the battle.
But you also you don't want to tell people they can't say that because then they start to feel like well
No, no, no.
fuck these
People have got to
people.
call. They got to question. They got to do
Yeah,
that.
yeah, and
But
that's good
this
to get out.
cowardice
And
thing
yeah,
is the real thing. You don't demoralize, right? The
yeah,
demoralization piece. The enemy knows this. It is literally doctrine in the Green Berets in an unconventional war to
yeah,
demoralize the leadership and people of the regime that we're looking to tear down while we
100
build up
100%.
them the courage and confidence
Yeah,
in the
no, one hundred
guerrillas, the
percent.
auxiliary and underground. It's literally doctrine, people, and we're falling for it. Question, challenge. You know how you question and challenge? You tell them, hey, you didn't fucking do that right, but we're standing right here. And if those motherfuckers move against you, we got your back. That's what has to happen. And that's the thing I did about, the message about the prince with His Royal Highness Prince William and about King, right? His Majesty King Charles II. Don't think for a second these people aren't under duress. The only way they can fight for us is if they know that the people are standing behind them. Does that mean that people agree with them and everything? Oh, hell no.
Mm.
Does that mean that people can't question them? Oh, hell no. But there is no way they can stand. I mean, literally, no way they can stand and fight unless they know that the people have got their back, no matter what comes.
Like me and my buddy always talk. Always said, like, man, I hate the saying, "May you live in interesting times." So I'm getting very tired of the interesting times. Yeah.
I'm tired of what is that saying? Again, I'm terrible with formal names and titles and definitions, but and quotes, but there's that one about, you know, sometimes you live a decade and 1 year happens, and
I mean,
sometimes
I think that was Lent. I think that was Lenin. It was decades go by where nothing happens. Weeks go by where
where
decades happen.
decades happen. Yeah, I
Yeah.
think it was Lenin. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Well, I'm tired of these weeks.
I know, right? Yeah, it's
And
like fucking
we're only warming up, by the way. The groundwork is only being set on both sides.
And but then it comes back. Was is it Thomas Paine? Like I pray not for war, but if it comes, be it in my time, so
It's
my
my
child.
time.
Then you have to look at it and
Yes,
go, well,
yes,
what is the value? You go, man, this is so fucking. Like, I don't have
yes.
kids, but if I did, I would imagine it'd be like, yeah, this does suck and it's terrifying, and I don't want to die, but I'd rather take care of it than
So,
have to
you
take
know
it.
why they want to why I think we have a little bit of time is because the resentfuls want to drag this out a bit longer, a few more years. Why? Because you got Gen X and we're alcoholics. We've seen it all. We're about as jaded as any human being can be. We're all like Charles Bukowskyites, and we will throw down. Why? Because we're the last generation to have kids, and our kids matter everything to us. Our kids and our grandkids, right? I hate to say I'm old enough now where I've got far more than a few of my friends who have grandkids,
Hmm.
right? And some of the overachievers even got a couple great grandkids. It's because their kids were overachievers too,
Mm.
meaning they started early. But you know, I do think we have a little bit of time because for numerous reasons. One, because our princes are actually doing a pretty damn good job right now. Two, the other side realizes our princes are doing a pretty damn good job, and so they have to reorient and realign and recapitalize and you know uh, shift to expending assets versus revenues, keep the fight going. But another piece that's in there, which is why I think on our side we'll probably accelerate it, is you got Gen X. And it was Gen X, the equivalent of Gen X in World War II that led World War II. That's Eisenhower, that's Patton, that's Montgomery, that's right. It was the equivalent cultural generation to Gen X that fought and won that war, led and won that war. And it was the millennials generation of the time that would go on to be recognized as called the greatest. They were the ones who did the fighting, but the ones who led it was this drunk, worn out, exhausted, jaded frickin' generation that was like, fuck, let's just get this over with. I want to spend my last year, I want to be around personally, freedom wise, when I got grandkids.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like that is, I'm not lying. I've done a lot of things in life. I've lived all over the world. I've met all kinds of people, been involved in all kinds of things. The thing that I am looking forward to the most in my life is meeting my grandkids.
Yeah.
Nothing else compares. And I will do anything necessary to ensure that that world exists where that can happen. And there's a lot of my generation are that way. And some of them, they want to see their great grandkids,
Yeah.
or they want to see, their nieces and nephews that they haven't had because, like me, I've got a brother who's 20 years younger than I am. And he and his wife now are starting to, you know what I mean? So it's not just my own direct kids. It's like, I want to meet my nieces and nephews.
Sure. And I also really do look at it of like there's no way in hell that bullet was supposed to miss Trump.
No, no.
I legitimately have like lifelong atheist friends, older guys, wealthier guys who are pretty like resolute. They're well, I've succeeded in everything else, so I'm also right in knowing that there's no God. I've literally had them being like, I don't know what's out there, but I know there's something. They're like, because that what the fuck was that?
I think it's life.
Yeah.
Personally, and I'll leave you with this, and I'm going to run,
Yeah.
Tommy. Um, this is my out there thing, right? As an engineer and science guy and all that, computational engineer. Um, we are at a crossroads between a restoration of respect and appreciation for life and the pursuit of life, or a transition to, and let me put it this way. We're at a transition between the worship of life and the worship of the synthetic.
Hmm.
And I think life's been at this place numerous times. And I think life fights back before we go down the synthetic pathway too far.
Um,
And to me, that's the quantum field. That's the divine, right? Whatever that is, I don't know. I'm not
yeah.
big enough for. I'm a human. That's something way beyond
Yeah.
me. But it's not just the bullet. It's a lot of little things, and it's not that this is the first time that these kinds of, when it seems to be that everything, it's the Lord of the Rings, right? At the turning of the tide, right? So who's Gandalf? Ooh, Gandalf the White. We're waiting for Gandalf the White. That's what it is. I
But
come to you now at the turning of the tide.
but then, and I'll wrap it up with less philosophical, but there's like a subreddit. I've been banned from Reddit for years, but I've seen screenshots of it of like
How
which
could you get banned from Reddit?
it was
The
summer
most
2020.
insane shit is on there.
I had just put my dog down. He was 17 and a
Mm,
half, and
mm,
this is when I was still living at home. My parents were out of town, and I just got like blackout drunk for like 3 days straight. And it was like right when the riots were kicking off. And so I was
mm,
getting on Reddit, and I was on under one account. I was telling, I was like cheering on the National Guard. I was like shut down the cities. And then I had an alternate account, and I was telling all the leftists to go out and fight the National Guard. I was actually trying to get them just killed, which technically I was inciting violence, so I can't even be mad because I broke my own rule. I was very drunk and I was grieving. However, the point is there were some screenshots from like,
and you're Irish. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, no, no, it was I hate everything about the left. They're not wrong in banning me. What
Yeah,
I
yeah,
did
yeah.
was
Yeah.
objectively wrong.
Yeah.
It was funny, but it was wrong. But I look at there was like screenshots of, and I think it was in 2016 as well as going into 2024, and they're like all these different, disparate occultist groups, and they all said it's interesting. because it's like a form of science when multiple different, separated groups discover the same thing. We take it as law. All these different occultist groups, they're all going, yeah, we've been trying to do like remote hexes. We've been praying. We've been doing all this stuff. And they go, there's something protecting Trump. And they've all said it. And I look at that and I go, all the fucking witches and occultists, they're all going, there's something around them. And
Is it
they don't say they don't name a specific religion. They're not saying Jesus or, Muhammad or Islam or Judaism, but they're all going, there's a hex around them. Like there's a positive field around them. And I just love that so much that even these fucking bitches are like, yeah, now, I mean, they're all insane, but I just think that's so funny that's like the one consensus they all had is it's not working. And I just think
so
there's
Trump
something.
has a divine prophylactic,
Yeah, they're all saying there's essentially a
and
fucking
it's not
inner.
rigged for their pleasure.
Yeah, no, there's like an inner security circle. And I look at that and I go, whether it's the divine, whether it's Jesus Christ, or whether it's some shared quantum desire that we all have for a better world, and therefore we all want there to be some form of peace. I do look at it and I go, there's something that is not explicable with our current or
I think it's
quantifiable with our current understanding.
I
But
think it's
it's,
life. I think life's fighting back against a synthetic.
and I look
And
at that and I go,
yeah,
and then last summer was like we took the theory from the paper and actually reproduced it in the lab. And you go, what the
yeah,
fuck
yeah.
was that?
It was
That's
a
how I look.
repeatable experiment because it didn't just happen there. It
It
happened
went
on the
from the
golf
chalk. It went
course.
from the
Yeah,
chalkboard to the actual. We brought it to the lab and it
yeah,
works. And I
yeah,
look at that and I go, well, walk that out. If
yeah.
that means there's something bigger, dude, we fucking got this. Like that's how I look at it. It's not over, but I'm
I
saying
think
like
we have a
go in.
chance. I don't know that we got it. I think we have a
Not that we got it, but
chance.
it's
Yeah,
not
yeah,
that we're
yeah, yeah.
walking into. It's not that we're walking into a volcano. It's like whoa, whoa,
Yeah,
whoa,
yeah, yeah,
whoa.
yeah.
There's a chance. There's a
The
chance.
virus hasn't killed the host yet.
Yeah, that's
The
what I'm
immune
getting.
system is kicking back in.
That's what I'm getting at. Is
Yeah,
like,
yeah, yeah,
wait,
yeah,
dude, there's Calvary.
yeah,
There's
yeah, yeah,
backup. We don't know what it is. We don't even understand it. We can't measure it. But we all
yeah.
saw it last summer, and it's like there's a
I think
chance.
it's life. I
Yeah.
think it's life. Think of the biomass of life, all the single
Oh,
celled, you know,
and yeah.
quadrillions of tons of biomass. It's all single celled organisms. They're all quantum computational resources. They're all heavily involved, deeply embedded in the quantum field. There's no way for them to be separated or isolated, including all the hundreds of trillions of cells in your body. That's a massive, massive quantum field of living beings. And yeah, a good number of them are living parasitically off others, and the whole eternal war is playing out there. That's actually where the whole concept, the idea of the eternal war came from for me, was studying single-celled life and the history of single-celled life on Earth. But we're here. We evolved beyond single cells in certain metabolic niches. Those cells have come together into more complex cells. They've come together in multicellular bodies. Those multicellular bodies have become steadily more sophisticated and complex. Well, life's driving that. All this biomass that's still all entangled in the same, Earth's quantum field. It's like, I think and I don't know, it's just how I make sense of it.
No, I'm
But
picking up what you're putting down.
when you look at history, there are these extraordinary times where there does seem to be the hand of the divine, whatever that is. And to me, I think life fights back
There's
when it gets to the point where the resentfuls get to the place where they could wipe life out by forcing a transition to the synthetic. Life fights back. The
um
immune system of life itself on the planet kicks in. And
uh,
and again, I don't, that's just how I see it. Now, what's the mechanics of that and all that? I mean, if you look at it chemically, you look at it with physics from the standpoint of physics and then biophysics, it all makes sense. It's all plausible. Doesn't need to be some omnipotent God being, all these things that, the atheists say that they argue against, but don't. They just disagree with, the titles and descriptors and definitions. But if you look at it in that way, there is a divine. It's life. It's the entangled field of life, and that thing is powerful. That's deeply tied into physics and chemistry and biology. And
I don't disagree with you at all. I sent you another link, the book
mm,
Global Brain by Howard Bloom. I've had
mm,
Howard on here a million times. He's a brilliant
mm.
guy, but his whole thing is essentially, and he's
Oh,
an atheist, but
thanks.
he's essentially saying what you're saying is like, and I don't disagree at all because again, I don't see any no part of science to me is ever at odds with God. That's not I know that's not what you were saying, but
Well,
just
how many of the original scientists were trying to prove God? That's why they went into
well,
science.
I think that's what it is. I think science just
Yeah,
proves the mechanics of it, but what you're saying is and I agree with that entirely, and I legitimately do think that's a thing where it's like we see it as like the unstoppable comeback story, but
yeah,
it's like there
yeah,
no, this might be quantified. We don't know, but it's there might be something. And Howard talks about it. He's like no one like piece of the charcoal brick can understand the flame that's coming off of it, but they're all required for it. None of my liver cells know about Tommy's
yes,
podcast, yet they
yes,
are it. We don't
yes,
know what, and then that's just my body systems of body, different species, flora and fauna, the biosphere, from solar flares to wind currents to temperatures to
yeah.
it is such a hypersonic it's hyper ultimate uber complex system that to us it seems like the divine and I do think it still is because I think reality itself is the divine, but like we're seeing these feedback mechanisms that are the intricacy of like your body fighting an illness, multiply that times a googolplex, and it's like there might be actual some a mixture of emotions and desire and spoken word and the temperature and the angle of the moon. Like we don't know how complex this system is, but it very well could be a Swiss watch where it's like all of this is coming together and it's like the bullet misses because like the system itself like demanded like no, the immune system's kicking in.
So,
It's beyond we couldn't.
so let's bring this back to courage and why we fight. Why is courage important? Why do we need to not tear down our leaders and ourselves? Because we're tearing ourselves down when we do that. Because we need to stand and survive this fight. And why do we need, and the why is what's so important. Why? So it could be more of the same? No. Because despite what all the technologists and scientists are telling you about how much we know, we barely know anything. And there is so much more for us to learn and experience and explore. So much more vastness. And that's an amazing thing. We are explorers by nature. And we haven't even begun to plumb all the places and thoughts and ideas and physics and chemistry and biology and physical spaces, et cetera, that there are to explore. We're just beginning. We've just barely started to build the tools necessary. That's why we don't lose hope. This is um, why we allow the cowards to build their own courage to tear us all down. It's why we don't tear down our own leaders. We stand to them, we challenge them, but we stand behind them and let them know we got your back no matter what. Because as a species, we're just barely waking up.
Yeah.
And I've learned this in my own life. I started in science when I was very young, chemistry and then physics, et cetera, technology when I was in my teens, early teens. I spent my whole life in study and research every single day and I've discovered unbelievably fascinating things that I never would have thought of. And I know that I barely know a fraction of anything, and there's so much more. It's what gets me up every morning. We can't lose this fight. We also can't, to the thing about standing to our leaders, we can't allow our leaders to think that they have all the answers and that they know everything because they don't.
And then we do got to wrap it up because I have to piss.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
I'll say no, my
yeah.
favorite class I took in college was the last class I took. It was molecular biology 3400 C bio, and it was about the intricacies of within the cell and throughout all of your physiology and anatomy and blah blah. And you're learning all this shit and the atoms and the tissues, and if you eat this, you release insulin and glucose to blah, blah, and norepinephrine, fight or flight, and menstruation and puberty and all well and good. But you always just learn about things, and for me at least, you wouldn't question deeper because you didn't have to. You just have to take this test. But it'd be like when you eat bread and it breaks down to this, your liver does what, or your kidneys do what. And in my mind, I had like falsely always just assumed like I've made the kidney or the liver like an entity. It'd be like, and they're like a cop
Yeah,
dispatching.
yeah,
Taking cellular biology, you learn about the Swiss watch Rube Goldberg device that is the cell. And then within it, you'd see like, oh, what actually happens is like glucose hits the cell, which causes something, and it releases this cascade, which hits
yeah,
this thing. And you're getting into the actual mechanics, and this protein plugs into this, and this starts moving. And to me, it was just the most brilliant. I was like, this is a Rube Goldberg device of just all these cascade. And then you're like, oh, this whole thing is just this intricate dance of things just
yes,
bumping
of
into each other and
life.
creating. And you're like, oh, and so I have to go. Well, then, if we know that happens in the cell, why does that? We have no idea that the Earth isn't a cell.
Or the
And no, we can't
gas,
understand
the
it. It's
solar,
so beyond
yeah,
complex.
yeah,
But it's like so when I look at things now and I look at like even just like, like a FEMA response or something, and it's like they airdrop the tents in the water. I just look at things like protein and cells now. I'm like, you drop it and there's little
yeah,
specialized
yeah,
things that they're doing this. And
yeah.
even at
The
night,
cell
you
wall
see them.
charges and
Yeah,
ion
and even
ports
at night, like
and
in a
yeah,
city, like you just see like on
yeah,
Sunday nights, it's like you see like the street cleaners going and the lights are flashing and they're doing this, and you're like, it's just this whole cell interacting. And so if you look at all those things, and then you go, well, then that implies also that something would happen at like the highest level. And if we're all going that cell that we call Trump, we go, no, we need that cell. We need that part of the nucleus for the rest of whatever the fuck. Even if we don't understand why, we'd be like, yeah, no, that bullet has to miss.
that's it.
And it's like
That's
we
it.
don't know what
So
fucking like quantum interactions we're having
Dr.
with
Dennis
environment.
Noble, um, Oxford University, brilliant, brilliant man in biology, wrote a book called Living Systems. And what he articulates is that it isn't these processes and mechanics that determines what a thing is. It's the boundary conditions between them. It's what happens in the boundary conditions between. That's what determines these things. And that is vastly more, as you say, a dance, right? It's a symphony. It's an orchestra. It's this beautiful, extraordinary thing that is so vast and so complex, even at the level of a single cell.
It's beyond comprehension, and we are learning about a cell, and
And there's
it's
hundreds of trillions that,
yeah.
in your body and bio, much less humans. That's just you.
But so like what all that does for me, it's like the same feeling when you see the zooming out to the Earth, to the solar system, to
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
galaxy, to the local galaxy
Yeah, yeah,
clusters,
yeah.
to the filaments. To me, I'm like, that is just the awesomeness. You're at the foothills of the mountains of God. You're just like,
Yeah.
oh,
You're looking at the divine. Yeah.
you go. So if it seems like divine intervention, like, yeah, it is. Like this is God's hand. It's yeah, that's how I look at it. Is like, and then
Yeah.
you go further and you go, no protein ever responds to something. He goes, why am I here? I go, well, by that logic, God chose every one of us that are alive today on this earth. He was like, I want you guys alive for the 2025 shit. It's all been destined perfectly. None of it's by chance. So that's how I look at it.
All
But
right, man.
let's wrap this bit. I was like,
Yeah.
yeah, let's do a quick hour show. We just did 2.5 hours. Jesus. Yeah, all right.
And we were
Well,
sober.
yeah, I know, right? Jeez, it's God. Everybody, yeah, go to the description, go follow him on Twitter, all that good shit. I'll text you the Spotify link, and then Rumble will be up tomorrow. But
Cool,
I
cool.
appreciate it, dude. Always a
All right,
pleasure.
Tommy. It's always good, man.
All right,
Take
brother.
care.
Take care.